had like some just fun news, Carl, just as I was like going to grab a drink before we went live.
Which was?
And it's like, oh yeah, you got a copyright strike on the latest video you uploaded. Yeah.
Which one?
The one about Takeshi's Castle that people voted
Oh,
for.
what?
Carl.
I just checked that. Fuck's sake.
So apologies about being a little bit later this week compared to usual. We literally have gone like from Wiki Weekends recording for a video for me into a fat theme recording, and that left us a little bit pushed for time, a little bit later than we thought we were going to be.
Yeah, I just checked. It's Takeshi's Castle Philippines as well. Not even Takeshi's Castle Japan, just the Philippines.
The Philippines version. So they took somebody else's show, made their own version of it, and now are giving you a copyright strike.
Yeah, they've licensed someone else's footage and a copyright strike before. If that doesn't sum up YouTube, I don't know what else does, mate.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how better to sum. You know what? I'll re-edit that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I'm hosting this one, correct?
You are indeed.
So I'll be hosting this one. I am your host for this episode, Karl Smallwood, joined as ever by Lucas Holland.
Hello there.
And this is the Wiki Weekdays podcast, where myself and Lucas scour the lengths and breadths of the internet to find a wiki on a subject we want to discuss, bring it forward for discussion, and then let you, our audience at home, decide which wiki won this week. And last week it was myself and you. I picked Dead Rising. You picked the Wanna-Do theme park.
The Wanna-Do City theme park, yeah.
Wanna-Do City theme park, which I thought was really fascinating. But I won last week, Lucas. Our audience has decided by a somewhat large margin. You wrote that in the... that's not me bragging. That's just what Lucas put.
Yeah,
he sent me the...
Frank West dominated this week. He was all over it.
Yeah, so hopefully I can continue my winning streak with my subject, but I won't be going until after the break. So here's just like a pro tip. If I'm hosting, or if I start the conversation, Lucas is bringing the first wiki. If Lucas does, I'm bringing the first wiki, and then the other one will bring their wiki after the break. And we should clarify that. If you want to vote on which wiki won this week, it's not on the subject you personally find to be the thing you enjoy the most. It's what wiki subject was the one that inspired the conversation you found most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the beauty, right? Because sometimes we'll bring a subject that, like the Wanna-Do thing, I had no idea what that was, but I thought the conversation was fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More so than the conversation I brought to the table. But I still won, so go me.
But I mean, it's hard to just... When it is something as simple as like, well, it's Dead Rising. I like Dead Rising.
Yep. But we want to encourage people not to vote of like, I like this thing. Like, listen to what we talk about and decide, like, do you like what we're talking about? And if you'd like to continue the conversation that we have, you can do so by going down to the Discord link below, and you can continue the conversation and, you know, ask us any just burning questions you may have, or just point out things that we forgot to discuss, even though we are going from a wiki. So if we forget to mention something, it's just the wiki did mention it. It's not our fault.
Missed it on the wiki, because there's normally a lot more to cover per wiki than is worth like of our time on a video, because, you know, otherwise for some topics we'd be here for hours.
Yes, but do you know what is worth our time, Lucas? And that is today's pet of the week, broccoli.
And yeah, I can only assume that broccoli is a Naruto reference, right?
No, it's just it's a complete coincidence.
It might be. I mean, potentially, maybe.
I don't think I've ever seen a dog just like, that's like such golden retriever energy, right?
That is like the most belly rub mode of belly rub modes.
It's like, excuse me, there's like this much belly not being attended to right now.
That is like a fully just dog that has melted into the furniture right there.
It has indeed, yes. And do we know who submitted this one? You just sent me broccoli.
It's weird, right? Because like I normally don't see many names of people on. It was Blind Ink.
Okay, so cheers to Blind Ink, yes.
Looks like it. Yeah, a lot of the time though, it just comes up with like. On Discord, a lot of people obviously hide the names, so it comes up with like the first letter. So a lot of the time, I don't know the name, but yes, this one was submitted by Blind Ink.
Is that like Blind and then Dink, or Blind Ink?
That's for you to decide, Carl.
Okay, I'm gonna go for Blind Dink, as in like double income, no kids. Double income, no kids, but one very cute dog. If you would like to submit your dog, and you think, no, my dog's way cuter. My dog, my pet, is way more into its belly rubs. You can, again, go to the Discord found below and submit your pet pictures to the Is it a channel on Discord? It's a channel, right?
I think it's channels, right? But like specifically as well, we get a lot of people asking. It's like you do like have to join on like the $1 tier on Patreon to get access to like posting images and stuff in the Discord. That's kind of the one qualifier, and just make sure your Patreon account is linked.
We can sort that out. We've had plenty of people like, "Hey, Matt, I can't post pictures." It's like, we'll sort it.
We can manually get it sorted. If not, it does jank out sometimes. But more just for most part, it's a case of like that's mainly for moderation, because otherwise there'd be hundreds of people posting images, and there's only me and you moderating that Discord server part time.
And that's the thing, we have to sleep at some time, which means people don't like the thing of like, oh, mods are asleep, post this. That's all fun and games until someone says, hey, mods are asleep, post gore.
Yeah, or like
racial
worse.
slurs.
Yeah, and it's easy enough to moderate text because we can put filters in for words, but that shit doesn't really exist for like images and stuff. So
it does to a degree. And I'm not going to tell you why I know that, but I do know that.
Because AI is going to rule the world, Karl.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's move swiftly on, shall we? I wasn't doing anything insidious. I just sent a girl I was talking to a gym selfie, and he thought it was a naked selfie. It's like, no, I'm just at the gym wearing a vest.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, flagged as potentially inappropriate. It's like, I'm wearing clothes.
Yeah, but Karl, it saw some level of skin and was like, no, this is inappropriate.
You can't. It's like those, like, oh man, have you seen those ones of those girls on like Twitch who just have such massive tits? They're not naked, but there's just so much surface area. It gets automatically flagged by the robots.
Right.
And is that a compliment?
I don't know. Don't know.
Is it a compliment as that girl's like they're just so enormously large?
Don't know if it's. It must be frustrating if nothing else.
It'd be frustrating, yeah. I'm like, I'm just walking.
It's like,
around,
I'm not naked. It's just my body, please. It's like every time I see a lot of like content creators and streamers and stuff talk about the fact that like the moment I put like any kind of vest or tank top or low cut shirt on and stuff, all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, you're doing this as like luring like people in with the chance at like boobs or cleavage and stuff. Sometimes it's just fucking hot and I don't want to wear like something really big and thick. It's like sometimes I just want to be cool.
Also, as well, if you're a girl on the internet and you want to get a bunch of guys to watch your video, you don't have to go to that much effort. Just say like, I like Star Wars.
Then the wrong kind of men come in normally, right?
Is it going to be the same though as like the weird men who comment on your body?
Yeah.
It's the same. Like, basically, weird men who comment on a woman's physical appearance when she's wearing a low cut top. Weird men who yell at women for having opinions. It's a circle, right? It's not a Venn diagram.
Basically,
it's the same group, realistically.
Also, like I think the whole like anime food name pun thing is just a general thing. Like broccoli is clearly intended to be a pun about like broccoli, but yes, that is many anime names, including like most of the Dragon Ball cast.
All of the Dragon Ball cast, right? Broly, Vegeta, his brother Tarballs.
Yeah, so it's Vegetables. And like obviously not all on the food, but some you get some
not
like
every single one, except for like Frieza, who's like Frieza.
I was gonna say there's Frieza, Lord Chilled, King Cold, Cooler, like they're all about like, storing food safely. Like, is that what the freezer force is? They're just like the veggies that you have to keep cold.
I still, as a friend of mine who's like, oh man, when like Sparking Zero comes out, we've got to play Sparking Zero. I'm like, I can't wait to beat your ass as Apul. And he's like, you're not playing fucking Apul or Kui. I'm like, I'm playing Kui. I'm gonna have the tag team of Kui and Apul, and you're gonna do nothing. Like Super Saiyan 4 Broly's gonna get his ass kicked by Kui.
That's the thing. I don't even remember which one Apul is. I remember Kui.
Apul's like the one that gets memed on in like Abridged of like, well, it's alright. I left a pool with the Dragon Balls. Like, you left it with a pool?
Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah. Oh, there's so many jobbers, and I hope they're all in that game.
Every single one. I want every single jobber to be in Sparking Zero. Maybe one day when it comes out, we'll talk about Sparking Zero. But is that everything I need to do in the intro, Lucas? I mentioned the Patreon. I mentioned
the live stuff, like the.
Oh yeah, we're live. So if you're watching live and you like and you comment and just anything that helps with the algorithm, basically any interaction is good interaction on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
The best interaction is to watch. So keep watching.
Chat.
And super chats as well. We had one last week. I didn't buy a beer though last week. A beer was bought for me.
I mean,
It's
I had
great.
a couple of sides over the weekend. So yeah.
We never shouted out to our mysterious benefactor.
Didn't, but I
Can.
did have a glance to see if I just through the Discord to see if I could see the same name, but I didn't notice it. They might have been there, but
Like a real hero. They donated the money and just pieced out. What a legend. Also, have I ever told the story of this mug?
Well, I was going to say, when you say super chats, what we mean is we will read super chats out if you want to interact with us and make sure that we read out that comment.
Or just say something really interesting.
That's the thing. We will sometimes talk, to chat directly or reference what people are saying in chat. The way to guarantee it, though, we have to if you pay us.
No, it's the classic, right? Isn't it? It's hard to ignore someone who's giving you money.
It is it's the classic rule, right? Of just well, no, I'm not going to say this random thing for you, just because you want me to. It's I'll give you money. Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay.
That's the deal, right?
The contract has been complete. And you can tell I'm really bad at self-promotion from all those years on Fact Thing. We just never did it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for helping me through this. Lucas does write me a very handy list at the start of every podcast that I'm going to host. Where he sends me a little list of these are the things you need to mention. I forget every time.
And we do also have just something that we don't normally do that we were going to mention as well. Of
yes, I'll let you handle this one.
Yeah, there's a thing that we do where I, just for the sake of file names, keep track of episode numbers, but we don't advertise episode numbers because if anything, it just turns people off to be there's 60-something episodes of this podcast. What's the continuity?
It's better to just have them not numbered and just if people click on a random one because our content is largely evergreen.
Mm-hmm. But yes, we are approaching episode 69, Karl. People may not have known.
That's quite okay.
It is. It's quite. Some might call it quite nice.
Yeah,
and
that's the joke.
I figured just we don't really do anything to celebrate special numbers of the podcast or anything, but I figured with it being one about a nice number all about interaction with other people.
It's literally one of the most interactive things you can do.
It's really interacting with someone.
Yeah,
and I just figured it might be a fun little time to do just a QA kind of episode for a Wiki Weekdays podcast. And
so that'll be not next week, not the week after, it'll be the week after that.
Yeah, so I'll give
Lucas,
a few.
You know what day that'll be? Did you check?
No, I didn't.
It's 9/11.
Oh no!
I was just looking at you. Didn't check, did you, mate?
I did not check.
Did you not check that episode 69 goes live on 9/11?
Oh,
is it still nice? Is it still nice?
It's less nice. Oh,
there we go. We've got Broccoli's owner in chat right there telling us the name was Brock after Pokemon, but it became Broccoli to reference food, which I like.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah, I assumed it was Naruto, but it's cool to know that it was from Pokemon.
There we go, straight from the horse's mouth right there. But yeah, I guess join us on 9/11 for episode 69.
But we have a question and answer section in the Discord. So drop any longer questions that you want answered in that section on the Discord, and we will just kind of over the next few weeks compile a few that are better for podcast format. Obviously, a lot of the ones that people ask in the Discord, it's just kind of a few word answers. So we can just kind of type that out in the Discord, and if you see your question responded to in the meantime, it means that question hasn't been selected.
Yes, but yeah, we're just going to do a special Q&A episode for that one, I suppose. So again, join us on 9/11. Can't wait.
I'm annoyed that this out very well.
I'm so annoyed that 9/11's not a Friday because I would have played Revengeance on 9/11.
Oh man, you should do a special 9/11 stream after the stream.
I'm tempted to stream it on Wednesday instead because the game directly name drops 9/11.
Yeah,
and we always do the thing of when we get to the Sundowner fight and Sundowner says, "Oh, what we're planning will be bigger than 9/11." So that's when, normally I say, "Okay, get your shots in, folks. You've got to do a shot for 9/11," and that's when I joke of Yeah, there are people out there who insist this game's not political. The bad guy we just killed is like, haha, we're going to cause double 9/11 each ship.
No politics in that, though, Karl.
None whatsoever.
I'm genuinely like baffled that I didn't check that through. But yeah, we are currently on episode 66. So there'll be like, yes, yeah, literally 67, 60. Yeah, it is nice. Oh, well, we've committed now. So use these next few
You could have
weeks
made
to,
up anything. No one knows how many we've done.
No, but I just didn't check to know that was a bad time to drop it.
Or is it the best time?
Maybe it is. So you've got a few weeks to think of some good podcast questions that will maybe be a bit more.
Don't do any 9/11 theme questions.
No 9/11 theme questions.
We're not going to do the
questions
9/11
around
like we're not laughing at 9/11. We're laughing at the crassness of like this horrible anniversary.
Yeah,
we're laughing at just the incredulousness of not realizing.
Exactly, it's the situation, not the event.
Yes.
We're laughing about, but yeah, like we don't generally cover topics like war and shit like that, and just like awful events like 9/11. Like we're not going to be talking about stuff like that. Keep it light, but yeah, you can hop over to the Discord link. Link is just in the description below, and yeah, I think that's everything we need to say.
It is. So, Lucas, what wiki have you brought for us this week?
Well, it's quite funny because you were talking earlier when you were just like, oh, well, a lot of the time people just like the wiki and like the subject of the wiki, not necessarily the discussion.
Okay.
I don't think many people listening to this podcast are going to like the subject of this wiki page.
And the subject is?
It is the very well-renowned Mr. Peter Molyneux.
So Peter Molyneux. People don't know, he's like the guy who did Fable, he did Goddess, he did Black and White.
Yeah, he created the God games Populous, Dungeon Keeper, Black and White.
Populous, that was it.
As well as Theme Park, the Fable series, Curiosity, What's Inside the Cube, and Goddess.
Goddess as well, sorry, Populous Goddess. So I knew he did. I knew it had an us at the end, I wasn't sure if it was Goddess. I knew something. You know what?
Well, it's both, right? He made Populous and Goddess, so you weren't wrong. But yes.
And just in these, you think, he made all these great games. No, he didn't make them. That's the problem. People, they ascribe the work of an entire group of people, sometimes hundreds of people, to one man. He was the lead creative on a lot of those, and like a lead creative force.
Yeah, literally to the point where like it just says straight up in the wiki, he created the games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, he didn't. He was part of a team that created these games, and generally he is seen as like the auteur creative behind the decision making and the ideas, right?
He's Western Hideo Kojima.
Don't
in regards to video
games.
No. Can you name another Western video game developer who has auteur status?
I mean, I don't know how much
he was involved. About it.
No. I was gonna say the one that came to mind straight away. I don't know how much he's involved in like the game creation though. Was Gabe Newell.
Okay, he's more just like he's just gaming's Bill Gates.
But then there's like obviously think back to older games now of like John Carmack and John Romero, right?
Yeah, John Romero. John Romero's gonna make you his bitch with Daikatana.
Mm-hmm. You got Cliff Basinski, who did like Unreal, Gears of War, stuff like that. So yeah, I think Lawbreakers, of course.
But it's more with Peter Molyneux though. He's been going for so long, and he's got so many good games. Like he's got Populous, and he's got Fable, and he's got Black and White.
Yeah,
he had a run. He had a run of a couple of really good games, and he was like a well-known enough figure where they could use his name to sell the game. I don't think you're going to be getting like Cliff Bleszinski tried that with Lawbreakers, and it fucking died on its ass.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter Molyneux could sell games with his name, same as like Hideo Kojima, where he sold like an entire studio. He sold a game that didn't exist yet on the cachet that his name carried in the industry.
Yeah,
which is what Peter Molyneux did. It's just the games that he made were wank.
They weren't like some of them were good, right? But like
the ones he made when he was trying to cash in, though, like that Cube one where he didn't give the person the prize.
Like
we'll get into.
We've covered in the past, but like it kind of the story kind of just disappears into nothingness of like a few years back, people got in contact with the guy that like, you know, was meant to get part of the profit of this game going forward. And yeah, the last article I could ever find on it was just these like, no, I still didn't get paid. And that was years ago at this point, and it's seemingly just never been resolved.
And that was like that What's in the Cube game you mentioned, right?
And then that was his prize for being the last person, like, or the first person to get in the cube, which was like the last person to click on the game.
Yeah,
before
it was going to be like supposedly they were supposed to get like an executive producing position on like the next game Millennial made,
and then
they
Goddess
just
came
did the
out,
classic.
and Goddess made money, but the person who won part of the profits didn't apparently see any of those profits.
Yeah. The thing is, though, there's never going to be anyone who beats that guy who was going to make a game, got like $1 million on Kickstarter, and said, I'm sorry, I can't do it because the Sun told me not to make the game. And then just stopped updating his Kickstarter and ran away with all the money. And just the excuse, the Sun told me not to do it. And it's like, okay.
There's been quite a lot of Kickstarter projects where they've gone at a lot of money and like a year later just gone.
Money, yeah.
It didn't work out, and no one's getting refunds by like.
Remember, Yogscast did that.
They
were going to make their own game, and then what they did is they took all the money, and then what they did instead was we're going to sponsor another indie game that's been made, and slap our name on it, and they took all the money and they ran.
It sounds like
they didn't realize making a video game is really fucking hard. Do you know that era where like content creators are like, well, I can make a fucking video game. How hard can it be?
Fucking Logan Paul with his NFT game where people like pre-bought all these eggs for like a game that was gonna be really fun and also make you money at the same time, and then he's like, oh shit, yeah, some other developer like screwed me over and I promise you'll all get your money back, and then he just like went quiet about refunding anyone, and it's like,
yeah,
right. Well, the game's definitely still coming out at some point. It's like, fuck off.
I feel like Logan Paul is one of those people where he's like Joe Rogan, where if you got me in a room with him, I could get him to give me his bank details. I reckon I could do that because he's just such a fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon if I just talked to him for 5 minutes, I'd walk out and have his bank card.
Oh, God. It's very funny, though, because obviously Peter Molyneux, or Peter Douglas Molyneux, kind of had that...
Douglas. Fuck off, Peter Douglas.
Yeah. He
Douglas
had that
Molyneux. What a name that is. That's so lame.
I mean,
Peter Douglas Molyneux.
But he had that moment with Goddess and all the controversy around like the what's inside the cube and Goddess and all that. And seemingly had like disappeared off the face of the earth and just like...
He just went to a producing role, right?
Well, yeah, he currently runs 22 Cans, a video game development studio. But Karl, the reason I'm talking about this, because I don't know if you know, that last night he made an appearance on stage.
What was he at Gamescom?
He was at Gamescom opening night live with a new game.
So he's got nothing to do with Fable anymore, right? Microsoft's like, no, that's ours. Fuck off.
Well, Karl.
Wait a minute. Okay, what's he done? I'll go watch the trailer.
It's very funny because it's a God game, and
why? What is his obsession with God games?
Because he wants to control shit, right?
He's like a known narcissist, right?
Are you gonna find the name of this new game? Because I remember.
No, I'm just gonna watch the trailer.
Well, you'll have to find the name, right, to find the trailer.
How did he go on? Let's have a look. Videos. Masters of Albion.
Masters of Albion.
Is he really called it Albion as well? The thing that like Fable was called. Because I know Albion's like just a word.
Albion is just an old school term for like England or something like that, right? Or like the British Isles, something along those lines. So it's not owned by Microsoft or the Fable IP as a word. However, I've seen interviews crop up with him today where he's like, yeah, but they don't own Albion. We can kind of just refer to it as being part of Fable, I think.
No, you can't.
And it's like...
You can use the word Albion, because, yeah, like you said, that's just an antiquated term.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, oh, it's part of the Fable universe.
And he's kind of
like... You don't own that shit anymore.
He's saying it without saying it, because clearly, like, a legal team are like, please do not say that you're in a Fable game.
What is wrong with the term spiritual successor?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that term? It's like when people say Hideo Kojima. are you going to make a Metal Gear game? So no, it'll be a spiritual successor to the genre.
Like the ideas.
Okay, that game looks like it sucks.
Yeah, it looks bad, right?
That was terrible.
But
That's a bit dismissive.
Funny.
I don't want to say it, but I don't want to say anything bad about the game because I just watched like a 30-second snippet. But just I don't trust Peter Molyneux.
I don't trust
the
Peter
reasons
Molyneux
we'll get to
at all. I just like the game just looked a bit like generic and like whatever.
Black and White's still better.
If it weren't for the fact that it was Peter Molyneux coming out and being like, "Hey, I'm making an Albion game," I would have never thought about this game again, right? I would have just watched that trailer and gone, "Okay, it looks pretty fine, pretty generic. I'll move on."
Just bring back Doshin the Giant.
Oh man,
bring back that guy. Or Black and White 3. Met Black and White 3. Because as well, when you're making that game, and Sid Meier's like Civilization 7's out or whatever it was, I saw like the new Sid Meier's games coming out. I'm like, well, why would we play your crappy game when that's out?
Yeah,
it's equal to Civ coming out.
It's not the best comparison when he's like, "Oh look, you can make your own town in Albion and send this really like generic looking guy with a spike club out to do some really bad looking combat."
But
and
then
then
the thing, you believe a single word he says.
Half an hour earlier on stage was like, yeah, as you say, like Civ 7 being like,
do you believe a single word he says? Let's get into it. Like Peter Molyneux is a liar.
He's a liar.
He lies about everything. And my favorite interview moment is when he sat down with some publication, and the first words out of the person's mouth interviewing was, "So Peter, do you think you're a compulsive liar?" And then he lies and says no. But the fact they had the balls to ask him, like, "Do you think you're a compulsive liar?" And they just went through all the things he's lied about.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous how much he has lied about, because the one that always gets me is just the fact that it's like, "Oh, so we're making Fable, and guess what? Fable is such an ambitious game, so ahead of its time, that even if you plant a single acorn, eventually that'll turn into a tree." Like, no, it didn't. I argue, even if he made a game now, he's probably still not able to do that shit.
The thing is, there's some games where you can do that.
Like that.
Yeah, and it's like, over-promising, under-delivering is just matter of fact with games. Mm-hmm. It's matter of the course, sorry, with games. Like No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Which is wild that guy got away with that. Like, how the short-term memory of gamers are like going on Jimmy Kimmel or whatever it was and saying, being asked point blank. So if I go into the world and I go to that planet, well, I see the other player if they find that planet. Yeah. And just radio silence for 6 months.
And I get it.
Because they lied about that.
What? Like, I don't know how many years later it is, like 6 or 7 or 8 years later or whatever. The promises they made with No Man's Sky now have been fulfilled.
Yes.
But those promises were not fulfilled when the game came out and people gave them fucking money.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Cyberpunk. And people are like, "Oh, well, I think we were too harsh on Cyberpunk on release." No, we were exactly as harsh as we needed to be. Mm-hmm. You're just looking at it through the lens of someone who now has the finished game. Of course, you'll look at the finished game and say, "Well, mate, but you go back 3 years, you did not have that version of the game. You can't judge the release version on what you have now, because that wasn't the context for how it was released."
That's not what they literally sold you.
Yes.
Like, they sold you a product that was barely working and was not the game that they promised in any way, shape, or form. Or, like, that's a bit far to say, but they extremely over-exaggerated what was going to be in that game.
Yeah, but the stuff with that Peter Molyneux, though, is that he lied about things that were so ridiculous, you should have seen right through them.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept getting away with it. Because I just have in front of me now just a brief list of things that he promised about Fable 2.
Okay, yeah.
Would you like to hear some things about Fable 2 that he said you could do in the game?
Yeah, they're all definitely in the game, right?
All definitely in the game. So prior to the release of Fable 2, Peter Molyneux made a number of claims about things that the player could do and see the impact of as you went through the character's life. And anyone's not played Fable 2, it's a very basic RPG where you're a child for 2 hours. You basically, do you like Fallout 3 where you're a kid for an hour for the tutorial? That's Fable 2. Your childhood does not play any real relevance to later on. It is the tutorial. And then your character grows as you go on through the game.
I forgot that you start out as a kid, because then your sister gets killed, right? by
got
the
kidnapped,
antagonists of the game, I think.
something like that. And then what happens is like it fast forwards 10 years, but it was sold as if like, oh, you're gonna watch this kid grow up from a kid to like, you know, a seasoned warrior.
In real
like,
time.
No, there's a time skip.
Yeah, there is just a time skip in that game, yeah.
And things that he promised were, as you mentioned, Lucas, you can plant an acorn, it'd grow into a tree. He also said, in regards to trees, you can carve your initials into a tree and see them 10 years later. Fable will also be completely open world with no invisible boundaries.
Which is
It's
a
a series of-
fucking lie.
It's a series of corridors that connect various town hubs. Like, keep in mind as well, this game released when Oblivion existed and Morrowind. Where Morrowind and Oblivion they're not seamless. Like, you still got like load your screen to go into a house or the major cities, but you can walk in a straight line in Oblivion for like 2 hours straight and go across the map. You can't do that in Fable, because I think you said, you see this fence, you can jump over that fence and run and see to that mountain in the distance. It's like, no, you can't.
It's not Breath of the Wild. You cannot do that. Like, in that game, it is very much, as you say, a lot of like corridor-based levels that all kind of link together.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you can do virtually anything in-game. Examples he gave were poisoning a town's water supply or burning down a house with someone inside of it. Roving gangs of villagers will hunt you down once you become famous/infamous. Going out at night as an evil character will turn your skin pale like a vampire. Your behaviour as a child will have a big impact on the future of Albion. It is a tutorial mission, nothing you do matters.
No.
NPCs can, quote-unquote, steal your open quests and complete them before you do, stealing your renown. You can watch your character age slowly from a child to an adult. You can have a child who will take over as the playable character if you die.
Just, like... Again, none of that is true at all.
None of it's true.
And the idea that he just stone-faced said this, and this literally is like a constant pattern with Peter Molyneux. Think about like all the stuff that they said about that weird like Project Milo thing.
Like, why did he make the child like just Predator Simulator?
Oh, the Kinect. We've got like, you know, again bullshitting, but it's like we've got limitless boundaries. Like there's no boundaries to like whatever we want to create now. Like technology's gone so far that we can make anything we want to. Is it so? Why is the thing that you want to make having a conversation with a 13-year-old boy?
I said with that Project Milo thing, if they just made it a big tit anime girl, even if it didn't exist, they'd have had like $1 billion poured into R&D to make it exist.
Yeah, just, I mean, it says here, Karl, that like that they're very, very, you know, kind to Peter Molyneux.
They're tactful. Wikipedia's a lot more tactful than we're being.
Yeah, it says, you know, despite the success of his games, both critical and financial, Molyneux has acquired a reputation for issuing over-enthusiastic descriptions of games under development, then which struggle to meet expectations. It's like, that's being so generous.
Like, it's the thing is though, the industry is rife with this shit. Like, bullshots are a thing, right? Ubisoft always gets crap for doing this. Of like, I remember the initial trailer for Siege where it's like, oh, when you put the hostage sees the camera and like crawls over to the camera and asks for help. And there's like the dynamic entry as the helicopter drops down the roof. And like you start a game of Siege and it's just everyone just teleports into the arena and the hostage is just a static thing that doesn't move.
And yeah, fine, whatever. Like, there are very, you know, big changes that will happen during game development where if you're showing off a game early, things are subject to change, right? I understand that. And
that's why they have a little disclaimer of like, you know, this represents a product in development.
And a lot of the time it's like, this is stuff that we aspired to do. This is how much like we aspired the game to, you know, this is how good we would hope it would look by the end of development and stuff. A lot of the time that's also not true. A lot of the time it was just literally just like photoshopped images that they didn't give a shit about lying to you with.
Oh yeah, like never forget there was like, I think the initial reveal trailer for like the Xbox One or like the year after the Xbox One. We're like, oh, this is Xbox footage. Like during the footage, you just heard the Microsoft sound. And like people were looking and like, oh, you could see the Xbox booths. Like people just got photos of Microsoft putting PCs in them.
Yeah, and it's weird to like not just admit, right?
Just admit. But I
Just
guess if
admit, like, this is what, like, we have the specs for the Xbox hardware. This is just running on a PC in development mode.
yeah, or I think what it is, can you imagine if like D23 just happened, all the Disney stuff?
Mm-hmm.
If they went out and said, "Here's like a preview of Fantastic Four," and they showed you like the bad CGI that's not finished yet,
Well,
that would never fly, right? There would be
remember
no
when that
fucking way.
happened with X-Men Origins Wolverine?
What was the rough cut, right?
It was
leaked
the
and...
leak, but it was all over the internet. Like,
yeah,
I know
imagine
many
if that
people
was the
that
trailer.
they watched that movie as the leaked version with none of the VFX properly finished and stuff.
And imagine if they released a trailer of that version of the movie. Of course, they'd never do that. And I think it must be the same thing with gaming. Of like, it's not finished, but we need to have a trailer.
Mm-hmm. But it's
like
just, it's something a bit different when it's, well, game companies generally over exaggerate, but when it is one man has spent an entire career lying over and over and over in very exaggerated manners about every single project he's been on, it's like at some point you have to just call out him as a person.
You just got to call a spade, right? He is a liar.
He straight up is, and like, again, I'm sure every single game has planned features that get cut for one reason or another. But he is talking about like crazy differences between the games.
Like stuff that is being possible with modern hardware. And so I said, do you have any examples? Like I think Breath of the Wild was meant to have the hook shot, right?
They cut it out to make the game too easy. Hook shot. Yeah.
That's the story I've heard, right? They had the hook shot working, and they said they took it out because it made gameplay too easy.
Yeah, basically, it was just like, well, a game where one of the primary mechanics and like problem-solving things in the entire overworld was climbing. And what about if we just give Link a shortcut to climb everything with a hook shot? It's like, well, it kind of ruins that experience. And obviously, they did put more stuff to make things and traversal easier in Tears of the Kingdom, like you've got the Ascend mechanic, but bear in mind that's a sequel where all of a sudden you've already had 100 hours of playing Breath of the Wild and climbing everything and stuff. Like, it's to freshen up the experience, right?
Yeah, I do. And the one for me is Metal Gear Rising. The early version of that game we never got because apparently just they could not get it working. And there's trailers of it. The initial trailer shows the first level before they scaled it all back, and there was wall running. There was like proper full combos. There was like it was just a better, more complete game. But they said there was no way we could get this to work. The amount of systems that would have to function and interact with each other was too extreme. So we had to just scale it back.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. It does happen.
And I love that game.
Yeah,
I love that game, but.
And
I'd love to see that
I still think that my favorite trailer for that was just when it's like, look, we're showing off the slicing, and we've just got this watermelon.
How has that not been adopted into a Star Wars game? I'll never know.
Yeah, like even to this day, I was playing through Jedi Survivor the other day because it's like on EA Play nowadays. But like, okay, let's fire up Jedi Survivor. Like, okay, do you want dismemberment on? Yeah, sure. Like, of course, it makes things more fun. And just like even going up against the stormtroopers, clearly because they don't want to see like human characters get limbs cut off. It's like, oh no, we just did like one of 3 animations to vaguely stab or cut them, and then nothing happens.
Why does Star Wars not just set a Jedi game during the Clone Wars when they were robots and put full lightsaber dismemberment in?
And that's the thing. Like,
who gives a fuck at that point?
Battle droids in Jedi Survivor where they're like, oh, they're battle droids, but they've been taken over by this rogue gang or whatever. And yeah, you can dismember their limbs, but it's so weird to me that we don't have a game where, as you say, that just freely swing around a lightsaber and dismember things in whatever way you see fit.
What was another one as well? It was, speaking of Star Wars, Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed was meant to be a more character action-driven game, similar to Devil May Cry. However, the physics engine, the Euphoria engine, just fucked with the combat.
Yeah.
And that's why the combat in that game feels so clunky and deliberate. And like the apprentice will just like swing his lightsaber 3 times. But I think in that case it's probably worth it because the physics engine is the most memorable part of that game.
Exactly, yeah.
But I would love to see like that nerf version.
I know that there is also it's one of the Jedi Knight games. I think it's Jedi Outcast, where even to this day, like because it had a really good, solid just foundation for lightsaber battles, like it's still getting modded to this day.
Yeah.
Where people are putting in more characters and more fighting styles and things because there was like lightsaber clashing and dismemberment and stuff like that.
And that's where people use the forbidden technique. Like where they just like they put turning your lightsaber on and off onto the mouse wheel and scroll it so your lightsaber just turns on and off like 1,000 times a second.
So like
They
there
do
are
the
times
forbidden
like
technique.
there are examples where it kind of exists, but yeah, just it does sound real fun to be like, here's the Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance sword cutting, but with a lightsaber.
It just seems so simple, right?
Oh, that's
Not
just
simple. Like, it's probably a ball ache to implement, but it just seems like one of those ideas of how did no one look at that and go to make that Star Wars game or Star Wars skin on that.
That must be like a gimmick they've attempted to sell with like Star Wars Connect game at some point or something.
Well, all the Star Wars Connect games always try and sell themselves on the fact you can fight with a lightsaber instead of what you really want, which is I want to stand there and go and just throw people out of windows.
It's true. Oh, but it does say like that obviously all of his lies go all the way back to Black and White apparently. So what Black and White has listed as not his first game here, Populous and Theme Park and Dungeon Keeper first, but Black and White apparently was where it all begins.
No, he was on Dungeon Keeper as well.
No,
he's got a pretty stacked resume.
Yeah, he does, and that's one of those weird things of for a long time. It's like despite his reputation for over enthusiastic descriptions of games, it says earlier that he was listed by IGN as one of the top 100 game creators of all time. He's got like multiple awards. It says he was listed by like Game Trailers as one of the top 10 game designers of all time. Or
Here's the
something
thing,
like
Lucas. How do we know this? He could have just wrote his own Wikipedia page and lied about it.
I mean, that is true, but would he have put anything about his like over enthusiastic descriptions if he was editing this himself?
I don't know. That's the thing. He lies so much we can't trust this. We can't believe our eyes.
Yeah. Apparently, it does say that his, most well-known case was just Fable, where he talked about things that were just not features, even though he talked about them in press interviews multiple times during development.
I bet he got off on it, right?
Well, I mean, it says after the release he publicly apologized for overhyping the game, but again, is this part of the cycle of just enjoying lying about it?
After he got the money.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Are you really that sorry when you've used that to like as a springboard for further success?
If you were sorry, you'd stop doing it.
It says in February 2014 he was quoted as being ashamed of the final product, Fable 3, and I never wanted to work. Ashamed of the final product, Fable 3, and I never want to work with Microsoft again.
Is that just him that as well? That's not like he's shifting the blame of like it's Microsoft's fault. It's like
again, yeah. And
I can't trust anything he says. That's the thing. I don't want to side with a massive billion-dollar corporation, but that's what you're making me do, Molyneux.
Well, you know what? Sounds like somebody who can really be trusted as an individual, Karl.
Who's that?
It says that in February 2015, Molyneux stated during interviews in gaming blog Rock Paper Shotgun and British newspaper The Guardian that he will, quote, never speak to the press again after being personally attacked for not fulfilling game promises, which ended in Molyneux announcing he will not conduct further interviews. And I like the fact as well that his quote of not doing any further interviews is apparently in 2 different interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that sounds like a person that can really be trusted. Is somebody that just when getting called out is just like, okay, I'm done with interviews.
Yeah, I'm done with it. You keep twisting my words. We report exactly what you say.
Mm-hmm.
We quote you exactly, and then you end up being wrong. That's not our fault, Peter.
God. Yeah. Just ridiculous shit of just, again, shifting the blame of like, oh, the same time, gamers and game developer veterans began to question the intentions of those publications, such as Tim Schafer calling it out of proportion and a media hunt, saying, "I'm not saying that developers like Peter and I shouldn't be responsible and accountable to deadlines. I'm just saying the reaction to recent events and the tone of the reaction is really way out of proportion to the seriousness of the events themselves." What
You're
lying
charging people
to get people's money, yeah.
You're lying to people and getting to pay $60 for a product.
And that, that is one person who, again, another person when you think like of a Western game developer that's seen as more of like an auteur is like Tim Schafer, who, I'd like to speak about at some point in a more positive light, but I don't like the fact that he's like, oh no, it's all just a media hunt.
It's like, how dare you not let him lie? How dare you call him on lying all the time? It's like, well, stop fucking lying.
Yeah.
It's not our fault.
Because that's the thing, is you get away with it once or twice.
Yeah, if like the No Man's Sky guy, and you know what? He came out, he took his lumps.
Yeah.
He came out, he ate some crow, and he took his lumps, and then they made a better game.
And they fixed that game to become what they promised it to be.
Initially, it took a while, that's why people turned around on that game and him as the person. Peter Molyneux just kept lying. Like that Milo thing, where I remember like years after the fact, someone asked him like, so what was the deal with Milo? Oh, it never existed. What do you mean it never existed? Oh, it was like, was it a tech demo that never went? No, it wasn't real. What? No, it wasn't real. That was just a thing we did. It was fun, right? It's like, no, you promised us something. You didn't deliver.
And again, just like it comes off with such a foul idea of like that he's seemingly taken a break for like nearly 10 years and then immediately come back with a thing called Masters of Albion, knowing exactly what he's doing because, oh, well, he's the Fable guy and Albion is Fable, right? And it
feels so seedy.
He doesn't need to say that it's part of the Fable franchise, but he's immediately, most people will just associate that game with Fable, knowing that he's the Fable guy. And I did the exact same thing of like...
Excuse me, sorry, I was just sneezing.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I was just like confused because he came out on stage and mentions an Albion game. I was like, oh, this doesn't reference anything Fable, though, and it doesn't have like an Xbox logo or anything. And
he's going to let you make the conclusion in your head, and it's your fault for not doing your own research.
Exactly, right? And
now he's lying by omission. He's done every kind of lie. Lying by omission is still lying.
It feels like they know exactly what they're doing, and again, just lying by omission and trying to deceive people, but it's not our fault. We didn't say that it was a Fable game. We didn't say it had anything to do with Fable. We just took the name Albion, which isn't copyrighted and is associated with Fable by most gamers, attached it to a project by the guy who helped make Fable, and then it's like game players' fault for making that link and associating it with Fable, right?
It reminds me a little bit of when like Mark Zuckerberg is like, hey, you know what? It's not Facebook's problem that was misinformation on our platform. I just remember when that website just went known paedophile. Mark Zuckerberg says that it's not Facebook's problem when misinformation is on its platform. No. Or when Elon Musk said the same thing, it's like Elon Musk dead at 42.
All of a sudden, they really care about misinformation when it's about them.
So I was supposed to do that, like Peter Molyneux who drinks his own piss. So he's like lying by omission. It's like, okay, so I don't like that. I don't like the guy, but just everything I hear about it just makes me just give me a straight answer. It's like listening to a politician talk.
It really is. It almost is like, and he's also put out something about like how he thinks this is going to be his last game because of his lifestyle. And he's like, admittedly, he's 65. He's like getting on a little bit, but the fact that immediately it's like, oh no, don't be mad at me, guys. Like, don't hate me for my previous. Like, I'm probably gonna be dead soon anyway. Buy this game. It's like, like now you're playing like the down on his luck guy. You're trying to play that card, and it's like, oh man, everything he does, it's like, it's frustrating. It feels like you just can't trust the dude. He's proven for 30 years that you can't trust him.
It's like that shady dude who's like just borrows money off you and never pays it back. It's like, no, this time I will, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just gone through he's gone through every like friend group.
Yeah. I know.
I don't like that and being this negative, but just he lies
All the time. And every time it's like a slap on the wrist and oh, I'm sorry. Or do you want to buy my next game? No, Peter, I don't.
See, the only way I'd respect him is if he just doubled down and just started telling even more bullshit. I want you to like go even harder.
Like, did you know that if you plant an acorn in Masters of Albion, it'll grow Fable 4?
Yeah, that's the thing. Just tell more lies.
He'll do it. They're already making Fable 4. It'll grow Fable 5.
Yeah. Or just get real song. Just be like a bitchy ex who just can't move on. And just, if you're going to call it Masters of Fable.
Fables of Albion.
Yeah, that's it. Don't pussyfoot around it. Fable's not like a copyrighted term.
No.
That's just a word for a story.
Oh, Fables of Albion. You know that's going to be the sequel, right?
Yeah.
Like...
Bollocks to it. Like, go all in. Double down. Become a villain. Become the villain of gaming. We need one.
Oh, haven't we got enough already?
Yeah, but like they're all CEOs.
I mean, true.
Not even like people who actually make games. They're all CEOs. They're people who ruin games. I want the person making the games to be a heel.
I was going to say, like, we've already got a Bobby Kotick in here, so...
Yeah, but it's like saying he's a CEO. He's not like... Bobby Kotick, the game that Bobby Kotick would want would be that version of Assassin's Creed that crashed and would only direct you to the store. That's the game he'd make.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about all I've got to say about Peter Molyneux, Karl. Of just like, nobody go buy his new game. Like, you can't trust the guy.
You can't trust him.
If anything, just go and play his old games, because they're the best thing he's ever going to put out.
Yeah. Go play Black and White or Black and White 2. And the Fable games are fine. With the gift of
Fable
hindsight,
2's
they're just
pretty good.
They're just fun. And the comedy in them's all right. It's very British in their comedy. It's like, it's quite sarcastic. It's almost like playing a Monty Python game. It's like, imagine just a Monty Python like action RPG.
It lets you have an orgy and catch an STD.
Yep.
Because they had like just ducks in a row on that one. Should we expand upon like the child section of the game where Peter like promised it would impact the story? Is like no orgies and STDs.
Admittedly, though, if you were a rich and famous hero, almost everyone would use that to get laid, right? So at least it's realistic.
Yeah, I guess.
I like the good and evil mechanic, where it's like, oh, it's gonna be really subtle, and when your character's evil, they grow devil horns.
Yeah.
So real subtle Peter. That's the thing. If you'd leaned into it, made it more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that new Fable game looks really fun because they've leaned into like just the charm and just eccentricity of the Fable franchise. They've not tried to make it like uber realistic. They've leaned on the fact that it's a little bit dumb, a little bit camp, a little bit quirky.
Like the first trailer they showed off is like just a Jack and the Beanstalk trailer, essentially.
Yeah, it's like I know people like hating on the character designs, but the Fable characters have always looked like that.
It
just looks like just a
bit goofy and dorky, right?
That's the point. You're this random goober who becomes a hero.
Yeah. Like, yeah, turns out like Albion back in the day didn't have much makeup and plastic surgery. Everyone didn't look like a fucking supermodel.
And even then, all those characters that people say are ugly are always like, what do you look like, dude? I remember it's like Tanya in like Mortal Kombat 11. It's like, we're going to take one like frame from the trailer where she's midway through like a battle yell.
Mm-hmm.
And then every other frame of her like in the game, she's just like a 10-on-10 Stone Cold Fox.
Yeah. And yeah, like I don't particularly want to shit on the Fable games. Like I wouldn't.
They're good games, just
particularly do that.
Divorced of the context of like the over promises. I remember like Fable 3 was like, ooh, your sword, your hero sword will grow with you through your journey and will reflect your individual achievements. It's like it's based on whatever the enemy, the type of enemy you kill the most is, but they didn't balance it properly because the latter half of the game is just walking through is all skeletons. So 90% of players, unless you specifically knew about the mechanic, ended up with the skeleton sword.
Right.
Because 90% of the enemies in the end game are skeletons.
That's the thing. I just think like a lot of it is like, okay, yeah, sure, you overpromised a bit, but they're still. Well, they've, to be fair, overpromised a lot with especially like Fable 1 and 2. But just, yeah, they're games that I still have fun with. It's just the lesson to be learned isn't that Fable games are bad, it's that Peter Molyneux will happily lie to your fucking face.
Yeah. I will say, one of the coolest things I remember when I first got an Xbox was in Fable. It's when you go and get like the dark magic spell as like maximum level, and your character's like, oh, and just calls down the meteor rain.
Yes.
And I remember like decking my character out in like the evil wizard outfit, so like a fucking like Sith Lord, and I did that, and I thought that looked really cool. That was really fun.
I also enjoyed leaning into being like an actual full villain in the game. And,
yeah, a cartoonish like mustache twirling villain.
Well, yeah, because I became a landlord.
You set the. I didn't even know you were going that direction. The mustache twirling villain.
Indeed, like, and to be fair, you can become like a fucking mega landlord in that game.
I used to love raising rent and just like because it makes money, right?
It does, yeah. And like you can just
raise
leave
rent and don't.
Like you can leave, come back a month later, and you've just stocked up a shit ton of money.
And people would ask like, "Hey, can you do my house up?" And it's like you just kill them and sell it to someone else.
You just sell all the furniture. It's like a good job.
I still remember as well where it's like I went to my mates, like you could like invade, not invade, but you go to like your friend's like map.
You could,
and he showed me his house. Yeah. And just obviously first thing I did was shot his wife. He was like, "You fucking dickhead!" It's like, get right.
You shouldn't have invited the guy with devil horns into your house.
Yeah,
then.
Like you know what? The game gave me the option. Like I just saw his wife, and like, what happens if I press X? And I pressed X, and just my character pulled a gun out and shot his wife. He's like, "You prick!"
Oh dear. Yeah, so not to take away from some of the games, but just fuck Peter Molyneux. Let's move on and talk about some housekeeping, Karl.
Yes, so like what housekeeping we've got? We've mentioned that Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, so I guess I'll mention that this coming Friday I'll be playing Metal Gear Rising Revengeance on Twitch, no doubt. So I think I'm going out to see a friend, but I'll be back in the evening, so I'll be streaming it then. It'll also be coinciding with a release of a Fact Fiend video, and this week's Fact Fiend video, if things go to plan, is with a good friend of the channel who's promoting something, and well, that's not what we do with factory videos, but the promotion will include a little extra caveat that will allow people to potentially win some unreleased Fact Fiend merch, because I still have a bunch of unreleased and just, I think I've got one copy of every piece of Fact Fiend merch, plus some unreleased and prototype stuff, and there'd be a chance to win that. So it's you'll have to follow the rules stipulated in the video.
Very nice.
I'll clarify now that I don't have it in every single size. Like I have it in sizes ranging from small to large. I think I've got one extra large.
Mm-hmm.
I've only got what I've got.
That's the thing. Like, it's not like you've got an entire warehouse full of stock or anything. It's just a few left.
The closest I've got, I think I've still got like 30 Fact Fiend Live t-shirts that I kept them because I wear them around the house when I'm doing like painting or doing a deep clean. I'll just slap one of those on, then use it to like scrub my shower and throw it away.
And just like, are we disclaiming who might be the guest on this week's video?
No, it's my friend Blasian. I believe it's going out on Friday because she normally is in the chat. She's a moderator on my streams. So she'll be able to promote the thing that she'd like to promote live to the audience there.
And I believe I've also seen them pop up in the Discord as well. So
yes,
we'll allow them to like promote on the day that the video goes out as well. Like just we'll make sure that we let them know that they can share links and stuff so that we're just promoting places everywhere.
Yes.
And on my end, I'm just on the usual stuff at the moment of like doing Mass Effect Mondays over on my Twitch, Tune It Tuesdays, where the last couple of Tuesdays we've been doing like a nearly naked Link run on Tears of the Kingdom to just kind of see out a bit of time before Echoes of Wisdom comes out. And yeah, just being like 3 hearts only, no armor allowed. Let's see what happens. And
I can't wait to see you play through like Echoes of Wisdom and just see the chair bomb.
Just the bed tech, like bed on bed on bed on
There's
bed.
going to be so much bullshit you can do with that, right? I bet like that's going to get broken down instantly. Like during like Tears of a Kingdom, where it's like, okay, here's the hover bike that just lets you go anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That looks like that mechanic looks like it's going to get broken as fuck.
Yeah, it
And I
looks
can't
like
wait.
it, right? Yeah. So yeah, I will be playing Echoes of Wisdom when it comes out, but in the meantime, I've just been like doing some like things on Tears of the Kingdom and messing about while we wait in anticipation, because I didn't have enough time to probably finish another Zelda game in between like finishing Skyward Sword and the new game coming out. And then I've been playing some Pokemon Mystery Dungeon for the first time ever. Never touched the franchise before, doing that on Thursdays.
Same. It's one of those Pokemon games that just slid on by because I had a DS, but I didn't have a lot of money, and those Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games never went down in price.
Yeah. It's a combination, isn't it? Of like, not only do Nintendo games generally not go down in price, but when you add Pokemon into the mix, it's like they only go up in price.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been experiencing some Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team, whichever the Game Boy Advance one is that got added recently to Nintendo Switch Online. I've been playing some of that over. I started last Thursday, and I'll be doing more this Thursday. But we were also planning on figuring out that card stream at some point with like Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, we still need like we just got a lot on.
We do indeed, yeah. We'll let people know, and of course, I announce it on the Discord and stuff when we have decided when to do that and figured all that jazz out. Because like, it's a question of like, oh, what do we need to do to stream together to have both of us up, and also
And
having
the camera
like
set up and
potentially cameras set up for like maybe like a desk view or something to show the cards off better. Or yeah, it's a bit different than what we're used to usually streaming, so we haven't figured out how to do it yet.
yeah, I'm also refusing to click on any content creator who does like card pack openings because I don't want my algorithm to be ruined.
Yeah. Oh God.
So
like,
we're gonna have to like just figure it out on our own, feel our way
will.
out.
The amount of times I'm just like scrolling through TikTok, and it's like they've just gotten more and more aggressive over time with like just watch people on like that promote their TikTok shop all the time, and it's like just people blind opening Pokemon packs and just every time I just scroll past, I'm just like, I don't want it to learn that I'm gonna watch any of this stuff. Ugh. But yeah, we won't be doing like Pokemon opening packs. We're just gonna go through some like cards and reminisce about
We don't make enough money to do that.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff like that. Yeah, we do not. We do not have a TikTok shop set up so you can buy Pokemon off us. But yeah, right. I think that's all that we've got to mention. And Karl, that leaves you to talk about what is on the thumbnail this week.
Yes. So the wiki I brought for this week was initially going to be inspired by the fact I just rewatched the movie. It's a movie I rewatch every year, and just over the last couple of days I rewatched The Dark Knight. But it's doubly inspired by, and I guess I'll remember it. But I made a tweet the other day, Lucas.
Do you want me
Because
to
I'd
pull
rewatched
the
the
tweet
movie.
up while you're talking?
I know what it said.
Okay.
And a thing that I like to do, a thing that a lot of people like to do, there's these things we call jokes. And when you write a joke or you tell a joke, sometimes you will exaggerate things for comedic effect.
That
Are
wouldn't be
you
funny.
following so far, Lucas?
Why would you exaggerate the truth? Oh, that doesn't sound funny at all.
Okay. Well, bear with me. And
Everything should be just straight down the line, just facts.
Of course, yes. And I did that with the scene from The Dark Knight where Coleman Reese goes into like Morgan Freeman's office and he's like, hey, the way I framed it is, hey, I was going through the archives and our dipshit CEO is embezzling billions to make a tank or to cosplay as a ninja furry, and he's driving a tank around and running people over. Also, you designed that tank. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, a Wayne
I thought that was
Tech
funny.
tank.
Yeah. Because I just thought, like, and here's the thing. That is what that guy saw. Like, if you think of it from his perspective, that's kind of what happened, right? But then, Lucas, I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but when a tweet goes viral,
Well,
if it's about movies, at a certain point, my favorite genre of online guy will find that tweet and will be very keen to correct you. And that genre of guy is the movie understander.
Also, Karl, you did miss out the last part of the tweet. Well, in response
Okay, so
to
would you
the
like to just read the tweet?
Yeah, because in response to the allegations, you also said that Lucius Fox responds.
Okay, so just read the tweet out in its entirety, and I guess put us all on the same page.
Let me get it up then, because you said you'd remember it, so now I didn't have
thought
it prepared.
I did. It's almost like I just bash this thing out in 5 minutes while I'm in between reps at the gym.
Yeah.
Which is my other favourite genre of online reply guy of I forget the person who tweeted it out, but it's like, hey, most annoying person you ever met here. That tweet you bashed out in 5 minutes, didn't think about, did not exactly conform to my lived experience and worldview. I'm now going to shit up your mentions for the next 3 hours.
And the tweet says, my favourite part of The Dark Knight is when this guy is like, hey, our dipshit CEO is embezzling millions of dollars and runs people over with a tank you designed. The fuck is up with that? And then Morgan Freeman laughs and threatens to have Batman beat him to death.
Yeah. So I understand. So this is the thing, Lucas. The movie understanders were very keen to point out that's not what literally happens in that scene.
Not literally, no.
No. Because, again, and I'm not sure if people know it's the thing you can do. You can exaggerate things for comedic effect. And when you do that, that's called a joke.
Still not
but
getting this whole
here's
joke
the thing.
But...
The movie understander does not like jokes. They don't like jokes. Because jokes require an extra level of thought that is beyond just interpreting something exactly literally as it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't like that because they're the movie understander.
And honestly, if it weren't for copyright, right now I would just play back that scene on the podcast and just be like, okay, he doesn't use the words, I'm going to get Batman to beat you up.
No. He just says, do you want Bruce Wayne is the most powerful man on Earth, and you think he runs around as a vigilante who beats people half to death with his bare hands, and you want to sue this person, or you want to blackmail this person, good luck. And again, the movie understanders were very clear to point out that, hey, Batman doesn't kill people. To which I would counter, Coleman Reese doesn't know that.
No.
Because if you think, and this is the problem with the movie understanders, of they can only view the movie from the lens of the omnipotent audience who knows everything and knows that Batman is the good guy and that Batman doesn't kill. They lack the ability to see scenes from within the context of the universe and from the perspective of characters within that universe.
Yeah, because Mr. Reese, the Riddler implication.
I also know that a lot of people they read that trivia page on.
So Mr. Reese knows that there is an insane vigilante that is apparently called the Batman that goes around beating up people and also probably has either stolen or works with Bruce Wayne or is Bruce Wayne to use a Wayne Tech tank to blow the city up.
Yes, and I believe the line he says to Lucius Fox is, did you not recognize your baby, the Tumbler, pancaking cop cars on the news?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I said Batman is running people over, to which the movie understanders were very upset of Batman never runs anybody over. Even though in Batman Begins, he does run over someone. He runs over a cop car with people in it. They're not innocent people because they're cops, but he does run them over.
And yeah, again, just Mystery sees all of these things on the news footage of someone's running over shit with a tank and also blowing stuff up with a tank.
That's the thing, us, the omniscient audience, know that scene, all the cops are fine.
Mm-hmm.
All Mr. Reese sees he sees the news the next day of the crazed vigilante Batman ran over a bunch of cop cars and that caused untold collateral damage in a battle tank.
Yep. So, yeah.
But, Lucas, the movie understander doesn't realise that you can view things from the perspective of movies inside a universe, because the only perspective they have is that of the movie understander.
And then, the response from Lucius Fox being good luck with blackmailing this guy if what you think is true.
Yes.
And I just, I remember when you pointed out this tweet to me the other day, and I was just oh, it's the Dennis Reynolds scene, isn't it? Of
the implication.
Yeah, but the implication.
The amount of people who were like in the reply sat before I muted it, because as a thing, as soon as you see blue checks start showing up, mute it.
Yeah.
Just mute it instantly. But yeah, the amount of people who are like, well, Lucius Fox doesn't threaten him. It's like, yes, he does. Do it a lie by omission is still a lie. Implying that someone will come to physical harm is a threat.
Like,
in fact, it's a much more insidious threat because it's harder to prove.
When you say good luck blackmailing someone that you think beats the shit out of people for fun, like, the implication is that, well, maybe if you go down this route, he'll also beat the shit out of you or kill you.
Yes. And that's the thing as well. It's like, oh, Batman doesn't kill. Coleman Reese doesn't know that. He knows that Batman runs over. He doesn't give a fuck about running over a cop car with cops inside in a tank designed to kill people.
He's a vigilante.
He doesn't know that
Batman
doesn't kill.
Like, he literally is. He just knows him as a guy that goes around and beats the fuck out of people.
And here's the thing as well, like, I got a lot of like Batman fans as well who are really upset, like, you don't understand Batman. It's like, here's the thing, I do. And part of Batman's mystique is that criminals don't know he doesn't kill.
Mm-hmm.
It's the threat that he might. That's why the Joker in that film is trying to get him to kill.
Yeah.
He's trying to get him to break his rule because he's the only criminal that knows he has a rule.
Because, like, I'm sure when villains tell each other, are like, well, did you hear, like, what happened the other day? You know, like, the scene where they're at the docks, and it's like,
yes,
Batman being shown off for the first real time in those Nolan films of, like, just a shadowy figure appears, everyone starts screaming, lights go out, and everyone's been, like, annihilated.
Knocked out. And here's the thing as well. I'm guessing there's a lot of hyperbole and there's a lot of misinformation in that universe, which Batman, again, thrives on.
Mm-hmm.
He thrives on the idea that people don't know who he, like, even Gordon. And this is what cracked me up as well about the movie understanders who were correcting me on it. Like, I watched it yesterday, so I know that I'm right. And people saying, well, oh no, Batman wouldn't do that. It's like the threat that he might is the point. Like, Gordon literally shines his light on the roof of Gotham PD, even when he knows Batman's not about. Just so he knows criminals are scared.
Mm-hmm.
Just the threat that he might be out there.
Yeah. Just, it's wild that, like, for some reason, people take all of that, as you say, that, like, omnipotent knowledge as the movie viewer and go, well, clearly that's the understanding that every single person in this universe has of Batman.
It's also the problem as well, like, the same kind of, like, movie understander guy is the same kind of person who criticise a movie. Because why doesn't this character just do this incredibly logical thing that I, with the gift of hindsight, can see? It's like, maybe it's because they were panicking. Maybe it's because the character is an idiot. Maybe it's because, just in that moment, that character had other things on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, me, person with, like, the omniscient viewer who has complete hindsight about the situation, just wonders, like, why didn't they act with pure logic?
Yeah.
Because people aren't logical.
And yeah, Gilbert and Chat points out of, like, isn't this the same movie with, like, Batman copycats armed with shotguns? Like, yeah, Bruce Wayne could just be a dude with a gun for all they're concerned.
That's also as well a great point of what people saying, well, Batman never kills in those movies. Coleman Reese doesn't know that. And in fact, the people copying Batman don't know that because they go out there with shotguns because they think that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Again, it's literally in the text of the movie that no one knows that Batman isn't killing people.
Mm-hmm.
But because the movie understanders are like, well, Batman, you know that he doesn't. And then the second follow-up, and this is my favourite one, because this is like one of those, like, things that Batman fans fucking hates, because it requires them to engage with the material and think about what is being said. And they don't like that. And again, I bashed this out in 5 minutes while I was in between reps at the gym. So it's not exactly well thought out, but I was like, also, yeah, I guess, like, you know, to clarify, yeah, I know that this isn't exactly what happens, but Batman is, like, running poor people over with his car. And Batman fans fucking hate the running thing of Batman beats up the homeless, beats up poor people and the mentally ill. And they always count with, no, he's fighting supervillains. He's fighting the Joker. So, Lucas, I'd like to ask you a question. And you can answer honestly, and folks at home, answer honestly. And can you think of a single piece of Batman media that doesn't involve one scene where Batman beats up a petty criminal, like a purse snatcher or someone doing a snatch and grab. Of course, like they have the supervillain scenes, but there is almost always a scene where Batman takes out a petty criminal. Like every cartoon, every comic, every movie.
I mean, that's the thing. I can't remember, for example, in the Dark Knight trilogy, if that happens in every single one of the 3 movies, but in that continuity of the Nolan verse, that definitely does happen.
Yeah, like he's stopping like random criminals, right? And here's the thing. I don't want to generalize all criminals here, but I think that a purse snatcher or a crackhead mugging someone in an alleyway, that's a crime of desperation. And the people committing those crimes are probably not in the best financial straits. No one commits like a purse snatching or a mugging or like, a snatch and grab it, like or holding up a liquor store because their life's going great.
Generally not. No.
Yeah. And Batman does beat up those people.
Mm-hmm.
He is beating up poor people. It's just that's not the only thing that he does. But it's just Batman fans do not want to acknowledge that he does that. And the thing is, it's okay to acknowledge that he does that. Yeah. Because part of enjoying media is also critiquing it. And it's like, what is the message being imparted there by Batman doing that?
And it's the same with like the people that like the Zack Snyder version of the character, right? Of like, oh well, no, he's Batman and he's cool. It's like this version of the Batman literally brands people to be murdered in prison so that he doesn't have to do the killing,
which is like a lie by omission. Doing something to someone that puts them in a position where they're going to die is at the very least manslaughter. And there's also like
to give Batman the credit potentially in that scenario. Maybe he didn't know they were going to start getting killed in prison initially, but he continues to do it, knowing that it's all over the news that it's a brand of death for prisoners.
Yeah, because and that's the thing. Like he's not pulling the trigger, but he's putting the gun in someone else's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one of those things where it's like it's a difficult concept, this Lucas. But are you aware that movies and media they have these things called themes? Are you aware of this? And sometimes like movies and media will impart messages, sometimes intentional, sometimes not. Yeah. And what's like one of the messages of the Batman movies in regards to its like stance on justice and the legal system?
The Batman's super cool and question.
Yeah. And it's like that the legal system sometimes doesn't work because criminals aren't afraid of it, but they are afraid of Batman. And there are positives to that. Like, he can do things that the police can't. But the question is, should he have the ability to do that? Which is something that actually comes up in the Nolan movies of, hey, you've built the Patriot Act machine that spies on everybody. That's fucked up. To which Batman says, that's why I gave it to you, Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
And then he uses the super spy machine to spy on everyone in Gotham to stop the Joker. That is a question that's raised in the movie of, should Batman, or should one individual, have this level of power?
And as well, like, the only real kind of success, I want to say, maybe not the right word, but the only actual way that it's proven that things work quite well is when it is Batman coming together with Gordon. And, like, a trustworthy member of the police using their power to help Batman, and then both doing what the other one can't.
Yes.
And like it is not meant to be a takedown of just the police system. It's like a lot of it doesn't work, but also Batman can't work on his own.
And that's like, that's not me reading too much into it. That's the literal text of the movie where Batman takes the blame for Harvey Dent killing someone because he understands that Batman as a vigilante is not the symbol Gotham needs. They need the upstanding, actual, functional member of society.
It's all
they need Harvey Dent.
That a vigilante is the reason that Gotham is safe. It's like, no, we needed to believe in a person like going through the right avenues where people can take good influence from.
Yeah, and just as the fact that that's not me again, not reading. That's the literal text of the movie, and the amount of like movie understanders I got of like, no, it's not.
And also, yeah, I am aware, by the way, that like the Zack Snyder version of the character is fucked up. My point was like that people defend that character because Batman's cool.
It's cool. It's cool, yeah.
And it's like, no, he's fucked up in that universe, but a lot of people just refuse to acknowledge that he is fucked up because they like Batman.
Yeah, and like that character doesn't really have much self-reflection, but the Nolan Batman does. I said he acknowledges that he shouldn't have the power that he does. He acknowledges that he's probably not the right way forward in terms of fixing Gotham.
And
that's why he takes the blame for murders.
He also essentially quits being Batman after that moment.
Yeah, but in regards to how Batman functions in that world, in a lot of Batman media, there's a message that's being imparted, and it's probably not intentional, but the message is that there is a certain group of people it is okay to brutalize. And admittedly, that group is criminals, and it's really, really hard to feel sympathy for criminals, fictional or otherwise. But can you think of anything, Lucas, that's happened in the last couple of years? I know we're trying to keep things light here, but can you think of anything that's happened in the last couple of years where the police thinking it's okay to brutalize criminals has resulted in any sort of like widespread systemic backlash?
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing, right, is that it's not just the police in that world, it's also Batman. Like,
But the messaging of the movies is that his process works. That's the thing. It works when Batman does it. When Batman goes and beats up a criminal, it works. And intentional or not, that imparts the message that that kind of behavior is okay.
Because criminals deserve it, right? And like,
yeah. Again, it's hard to feel sympathy for criminals.
Anyone
but that's why
deserves
it's so insidious.
It. Like, because when Batman decides that people deserve it in that universe, like, it's just unquestionable of like, no, but because
Batman's always
Bruce
right.
Wayne thinks that they deserve it, they deserve it.
And Batman is always correct, yes. And someone out there is probably thinking, well, it's a fictional. What bearing does it have on reality? A lot, because a lot of people take their morals are influenced by the media they consume. And a real world example is the show 24, where 24, the show, was directly invoked by members of Congress to defend torture at Guantanamo Bay, because they said it works when Jack Bauer does it. Yeah.
That's not okay.
No. And also, like, think of it just for a second, again, look at it from the perspective, like, remove yourself from the situation, imagine you don't know who Batman is. Think about just the Dark Knight of all the things that Batman does. That now imagine he's just a cop.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the thing, the cops basically use him as a weapon. Like, Gordon uses him as a weapon to do things he can't. Like when he's interrogating the Joker, what's the first thing he does when he's interrogating the Joker?
I mean, he brutalizes him.
He punches him in the head, which even the Joker's like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, because the opening gambit when Gordon leaves the room is he's stood behind him and he just slams his head into the table.
And the Joker acknowledges that's not how this works. And that's the thing, that's a badass scene, and that's really cool, right? But what's the message being imparted there of like, that's what the cop should have done?
Again, it's the cool factor wins out, right? Of like,
cool factor wins out, but that's still intentional or not, it's suggesting that it's okay to do that because it gets results.
Yeah, it's okay to literally just threaten the life of the Joker until he just comes out with...
Which someone's going to say, but it's the Joker, he's a criminal. And that's the problem. That's why it's so insidious, because once it's like... The problem is, like it or not, everybody has rights.
Yeah.
And you can't start taking rights away from people. Because the moment you start doing that, shit gets real bad.
And, like, just as well, the fact that, like, oh yeah, it's okay because, like, oh, someone's life is being threatened, and it's like, okay, but you don't seem to give a shit about Harvey Dent's life. It's not because people's lives are at risk. It's because Rachel's life is at risk.
Yeah.
So the implication, again, is that, like, Batman's only beating the shit out of him for personal means as well.
But, yeah, and there's also the thing of, like, when you come up with the justification, he had to do it to get results. Those arguments are used in real life. Like, during the Black Lives Matter movement, the amount of, like, awful people who were justifying the police brutalizing people, like, they shouldn't have been committing a crime. It's like surprise, dipshit, criminals still have rights. And one of those rights is not getting killed. Everyone deserves to have their day in court.
Yeah.
But that's the problem. Like, it normalizes that behavior, and it's so insidious and so terrifying. It's a conversation I think should happen, but when you try and have it, Batman fans like, no, we don't, because Batman's always right. It's like,
again, it's just Batman's cool, therefore don't question it.
yeah, but that's the thing as well. He's always right.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he throws that guy off the edge of a building, it's like, a fall from up here won't kill me. What about if he did kill him? What about if that guy tripped and fell over and broke his fucking neck?
Mm-hmm.
And he died.
Like, yeah, just also, I mean, we make comments about it a lot, and a lot of people do point out, like, it is sometimes a near enough death sentence if he either brutalizes them enough or just leaves them in, like, mass amounts of medical debt. He knows that it's going to break his legs.
Yeah, and that's when people always counter of like, oh no, but like, Bruce Wayne does it. It's like, yeah, but it's more that the movie is messed like, this is okay. And as I said, it's very hard to empathize and sympathize for a criminal, fictional or otherwise, but that's why it's so dangerous.
Like,
because
there just isn't much media that points out, like, the kind of negligence of Batman and the hypocrisy of Batman.
Or just like, if you think of it as a cop, like, I talk so much about like cop procedurals. Every single one of them I watch is the police just wildly abusing people's rights. Even comedies like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Jokes about mistreating criminals, or like one of the first episodes is Jake arresting a guy because he looked at him funny. And it's played off as a joke of like, wait, you arrested an innocent man because you personally don't like him?
Or like the
That's
interrogation
horrifying.
scene where it's like the dentist that nearly gets one over on them.
Yeah.
And he's basically just like, I don't care what I have to do to fucking... I have a gut feeling that you're a murderer. I'm going to make sure that you're guilty.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact. Police can't arrest people because they have a gut feeling that you've done something wrong. Because the moment you empower police to do that, that's probably not going to end well for a lot of folks out there who the police have a bad gut feeling about.
Yep.
That's why you can't empower them to do that. And when you have media that shows that not only should you empower people to do that, that it's good and correct because it works. And as again, intentional or not, that messaging seeps through. Like I said, the whole thing like torture in 24 or police procedurals, the amount of people who think that, cops should be allowed to do that, or that it's they're not abusing people's rights when they like do things like deny them like getting a lawyer or something.
Well, ultimately, what is the reason that a lot of people think that? Probably because they've seen a lot of media where it gets good results.
Television, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like every study ever done on torture said it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Do you know the best way to save you or someone in custody? Like, let's say, for example, a Jack Bauer situation. We've got a terrorist. There's going to be a bomb strike in like an hour. I need to get the person to talk. Do you know what every study ever conducted says the best way to get that terrorist to talk?
Give them a cup of tea. Have a chat with them.
It's not like, it might beat them half to death. It's not like go in like Batman and threaten them. It is make them a better deal.
Yeah.
Make them a better deal. It's that, and obviously people don't like that answer because they don't like the idea of the criminal getting something for it. But it's like, if you're happy to do something that's like, if you'd argue that the necessary evil is okay, surely the necessary good.
Yeah,
so,
like letting one person off so that you can stop a bigger problem. Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't agree that both of those things are just as valid, it's like you just want the excuse to hurt the person. You don't actually want to solve the problem. It's like just a bit like Rick and Morty where it's a weird pull, but whereas that guy is like, okay, we need to grab that guy's like goob snap or something like that to get him to talk. And Morty thinks he's torturing him and he's actually getting him off.
Jacking him off, yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to do that. It's like, you want him to talk, right? That'll get him to talk.
All right, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
right.
Yeah.
When you tell people that, if you tell people like, giving the criminal, making them a better deal is near universally the best way to get results, they don't like that.
It's
same thing for like criminals and stuff. Like the best way to stop criminals going back out and committing crimes is not to be Batman and run out and beat them up. It is to put them in prison, rehabilitate them, and just make them a better offer.
And it's funny because there's a great little nod to the fact that torture doesn't work and It's Always Sunny, where like Frank is just waterboarding someone, I think it might be D, and like he's like, oh yeah, this is great. I can get them to admit anything I want when I do this to them.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that they've actually done it, it's just they will literally tell him anything they want to hear and admit to anything that he accuses them of because they just want it to stop.
And that's why it's really funny as well. It's one of those subtle things about, I don't think it's subtle, but people seem to think it is, of the Joker's backstory. Because the whole thing, like, the Joker never tells you his backstory. It's like, he does. He tells you his backstory multiple times. Like, his story about his scars, that's bullshit. But there's a few times where the facade drops, and you know, or you can infer what his backstory is. Because Joni's talks like Harvey Dent, of like, you know, if it's all part of the plan. There's a specific line he says when a truckload of soldiers explodes, no one gives a damn. And then later in the film, the Joker, this is really subtle, Luke, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the Joker is holding a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And then he fires like a rifle with pinpoint accuracy. And then he's wielding weaponry, and he has like, expert hand-to-hand training, and he's, working explosives.
Yeah, he blends in perfectly with the soldiers at the parade, right? He's one of those people.
Yeah. He's, he can walk to military attention, and then he has special. He seemingly has very high level of like hand-to-hand training, and he's an expert with planning and explosives and weaponry. Do you think maybe the Joker was a soldier?
I mean,
especially when they talk about there's no record of this guy.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is that okay? That's not one of the many backstories that I'm aware of in the comics, but yeah, just like, why wouldn't he be? Because the character in every scene like seems to show all of the like knowledge and abilities that a soldier might have, and also like the interrogation scene where
he said that won't work.
He knows about interrogation. He knows about like the brutalizing someone in interrogation is a bad way to go, and also manages to put up with like a lot of punishment, and even when he does admit where to go, he's still got the forethought to fuck over Batman because he knows who he wants to save.
That's it. It's subtle, but it's there of him firing a rocket launcher. That's not a thing a random person knows how to do. And like the one time that he's actually serious is when he says, like, a truckload of soldiers explodes. You see his facade, right? He goes, every soldier will go to plan.
And yeah, just like even the bank heist at the beginning, right? He knows how to plan a bank heist, make it clean as fuck. For the most part, obviously, that one guy with the shotgun messes up a little bit, but not really. And then he also knows, like, oh, well, if I just line up all my ducks in a row and get each one to pick each other off, like, it just ties itself up, and just it leaves me with a literal, like, bus full of money.
It's one of my, like,
and a clean
one of the best
exit.
bits about the film is that the Joker is a complete hypocrite. And again, it's not really subtle. Of like, the Joker talks about chaos, and yet everything he does relies on careful planning.
Like, absolutely, military grade planning of like, everything is pulled off within like a moment's notice of exactly when Joker wants it to.
Yep.
Like, everything goes to plan, even though he constantly talks about how he doesn't have a plan.
Even the bit Joey's like giving the speech over like the microphone. You can see him, he's holding a pen and paper. He wrote down his speech. He's reading a rehearsed, prepared statement. And again, this stuff's not subtle. It's in the movie if you just watch it.
It's like, it's almost as if he's got a meticulous plan to cause chaos in other people.
Yes.
He's not the chaos. He's trying to cause the chaos in others.
And that's why he gets mad at the end, isn't it? It's like, here we go. And it doesn't explode. Because it doesn't go to plan. If anything, if the Joker was truly an agent of chaos, he would like that it didn't go to plan. And he doesn't. He's annoyed. He's frustrated that he wasn't able to predict human nature as well as he thought he could, because this whole thing is that he's disillusioned. And I'm of the belief that the hints are pretty strong what his backstory is. He's a special forces soldier who was disavowed by the government. That's why they have no records of him. I mean, like, he was doing Black Ops wet work or some shit, and his government forgot about him. That's as well why he recognised the tumbler.
Does he?
He's like, he knows about it. He sees it, and he's not scared.
I mean, like, I've not thought about that of being his backstory before, but it does line up. Like,
It makes a lot of sense.
Everything.
It's the only backstory to him that I actually is. Every other one doesn't make sense because how can he use? Why is he using a rocket launcher then?
Why is
Like, if he really is like just a guy who went crazy one day.
Why does he know how to improvise a bomb and put it inside of a person?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't know how to set up a bomb that explodes based on like a phone call. I couldn't do that.
As I said, go just watch the scene in the hospital and the specific line of when he talks about a truckload of soldiers exploding. You see there is absolute just rage in his eyes. He's so mad. Because he's like, but no one minds. It's all part of the plan. Just soldiers are meant to die.
Yeah, just like the fact that he immediately gets frustrated second one when the hospital doesn't blow up, when the ship doesn't blow up, and obviously the hospital blows up 10 seconds later, but yeah, just he always talked about being this like dog off a leash or whatever that's just chasing a car and seeing what happens or whatever the line is. And it's like, no, everything he does in that movie is so planned out.
Yep. And it's fun. And that's the thing. That's the beauty of rewatching movies. And some of this stuff might have gone over my head like on a first watch, but on the multiple watches when I went through, something I've talked about in the past is try watching the movie. I advise people to do this: watch a movie and put yourself into the perspective of a character in that movie, and try and imagine what you're witnessing from that character's perspective. Because that's what I did with Coleman Reese. Because his character is like he's having the worst day.
I mean, all he's doing is looking out for the company he works for and doing his job.
He's told to do his job by Lucius Fox. He's given a bunch, he gives him shit for it. He's like, why don't you go down to archiving? Make sure it's all dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
And it's meant to be a line of him just brushing them off and throwing them away, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, okay, no, I will look into all this shit. What is going on?
And it's really funny as well because the amount of people he tries to blackmail Batman. He goes, well, from his perspective, Batman's a criminal. Bruce Wayne is embezzling millions of dollars and has a career as a vigilante who's blown up half of downtown Gotham. Why would you not blackmail that dude?
There's a massive...
Again, he doesn't know that Batman has a code. He thinks he's a criminal.
Yeah, he's like, hey, that's all Wayne Tech proprietary tank on the news blowing up things. Also, there's a black hole in the budget for R&D purposes where it goes nowhere.
Also, as well, keep in mind, again, from Coleman Reese's perspective, he's now an accessory. Because if he doesn't report that and Batman gets caught, he's going to get caught as well. And he's not a billionaire.
Because he now knows about the crime.
Yeah, he knows about it.
And also, I like that we've got this far into the conversation. I don't know what your wiki's about.
No, I just got the Dark Knight wiki.
Oh, okay.
The Dark Knight is a 2008 superhero film directed by Christopher Nolan. That's the thing we didn't need it, right? We already knew.
No, and I do want to, just talk about the Dark Knight in a more positive manner for a minute. Of
it's a fantastic. Why do you think I rewatch it every year and wanted to? I had a new observation because last year when I rewatched it, I viewed it from the perspective of Harvey Dent. And he's having a rough day as well.
Yeah.
From Coleman Reese has a terrible time of it.
He literally is just like, oh, hey, I'm trying to do my job. Oh, Batman might beat the shit out of you. What?
And then keep in mind as well, even if he doesn't think Bruce Wayne's Batman, he still gets... it's about messaging. Whether intentional or not, the movie is implicitly saying that a billionaire can do whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah. Again, from Coleman Reese's perspective, that is a billionaire basically saying, hey, yeah, I'm a criminal. The fuck are you going to do about it? And again, we know Batman's a good guy. I know he's a good guy, movie understanders. From Coleman Reese's perspective, he's a criminal, and the criminal threatens him.
And it's very normal to real life, right? That's usually the way that it goes down with a billionaire is, well, what are you going to do? Because I will just fucking sue you into all oblivion.
And that's what makes it fascinating to watch. And what is the messaging there? And again, they go, but Batman's a good guy and then he saves him later. But again, view that from his perspective, from Coleman Reese's perspective of, hey, Batman crashed $100 million worth of Lamborghini to save my life.
And or like
what would he spend to kill me?
That's a very expensive Lamborghini.
He
like,
crashes a Lamborghini.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
He crashes a Lamborghini to save my life.
Yeah.
But that means as well, imagine Coleman Reese, like, that means Batman was following me the entire time. That means
that Bruce Wayne knows where I am at all times if he wants to. Yeah. And you could see that as a continuation of the threat.
Of course you can, yeah. Like, it thinks like, well, Bruce Wayne, is he really that powerful? Well, he stopped me from getting killed. He seemingly has omniscience.
Yeah. But again, just to like go away from that conversation, just like
that's the thing. Like, just imagine it from Coleman Reese. For anyone who wants to criticize anything I've just said, go back and watch the scene and imagine you are Coleman Reese and you do not have the perspective of an omniscient member of the audience who knows that Batman's a good guy.
Yeah. And
just try and do that.
It's why it's fun to rewatch movies that we love, right? And we do both thoroughly enjoy The Dark Knight, but having a conversation about The Dark Knight 16 years later, if it was just, wasn't The Dark Knight really good?
Or going through the 6 things everyone knows about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Mr. Reese thing, or, oh, did you know that Heath Ledger went crazy making it, which is a myth. That's not real.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, like, a lot of the actors in the film,
the fact he was like super happy on set all the time,
and a lot of the actors in the film have said it's really offensive to Heath Ledger's memory because it diminishes how good of an actor he was. It's like, no, he wasn't driven insane by the Joker. He's just a good fucking actor. That's why it's so sad that he died.
There's that weird conflation, right, of all the weird stories about how crazy Christian Bale is for all of his roles and how he just method acts and all this jazz and like goes fully into it. So people seemingly were like, well, if Christian Bale's doing all this, Heath Ledger did all this as well, and like was completely insane by the end of it. It's like, no, he just unfortunately had like mental health problems and also was making a movie where he was the Joker.
Yeah. And there's a couple of weird things that he did. Like, to say, like you said, he kept a journal of things that the Joker would find funny.
Mm-hmm.
And in that journal was people dying. I think one of them was like children dying of cancer and soldiers dying in battle.
And a lot of other parts of it was apparently just things that he thought were stupid jokes that the Joker might tell.
Yeah. Because the Joker finds everything funny. Because he's like, if you read his backstory as like he's a soldier who was just like, he's had everything taken from him, you'd be a complete nihilist, right? You wouldn't give a fuck about anything. Of course, you find everything a joke.
And just, obviously Heath Ledger's performance is fantastic, but it's just a movie full of really good performances in general.
He almost overshadows everyone else in the movie.
He does, yeah.
It's so wild. Like, to the point where, like, some of those, like, facts that everybody knows include actors forgetting their lines, like the one about Michael Caine, where the Joker walks into the party and just, like, starts swanning around grabbing people's drinks.
When Alfred's, like, panicked and stuttering and not knowing what to do, it was just, that was Michael Caine seeing Heath Ledger for the first time in full outfit, right?
Which I thought was I've checked all these because, like, there's so many, like, stories everyone knows, quote unquote, about. So that one is true. Michael Caine confirmed it. Of like, yeah, just Heath Ledger walked in. It was like a storm. Like, just this absolute force of nature walked in. Like, I forgot my line and they just kept rolling. And that's why he panics. He thinks he's full his line. He's going to do the scene again. And just Heath Ledger just rolled with it.
Mm-hmm.
He's that good an actor. And then when he's walking around, like, grabbing people's drinks and stuff, that's just him playing off the energy of the other actors in the scene.
Mm-hmm. And, like, yeah, it's one of those of clearly knowing, like, bits and pieces about how Christopher Nolan makes his films. There is not that much room for, like, improvisation. It's not as
There's
if it was...
very, very little improvisation in that film. Because that's the other fact. It's mentioned in the group, not the group chat, the chat of the hospital explosion being improvised. No, it wasn't. Every site you see saying that it was improvised is lying. Christopher Nolan, when he was asked that, was like, are you fucking stupid? If Heath Ledger was doing that scene and the explosion didn't go off when he thought it would, he'd have started sprinting, as would the camera crew. It's an explosion. Yeah. It was timed to the second, and Heath Ledger is, again, he's just that good an actor, it looks like he doesn't realise.
Yeah, because I didn't realise that wasn't a true fact, but it does make sense of, like, yeah, if you're pressing a button on set of, like, blow this entire building up and something doesn't happen, it's like panic mode.
Yeah, the moment that, like, if you actually think about that for a moment, it's like, of course it wasn't improvised, because if there was supposed to be, because it was a real explosion, there was going to be, it's an actual hospital that they're going to demolish, and Christopher Nolan got permission to film it.
Yeah.
If they actually were going to blow something up and there was a mistake, they would not have stuck around.
Yeah, and that was a quote-unquote, like, fact about the movie that I've always just heard and never questioned, but the moment you say it, of like, yeah, that'd be stupid on set to, like, not immediately go into panic station.
Yeah, there's on the director's commentary, Christopher Nolan directly talks about it, of like, a lot of people say this is improvised. No, it's not. We're not stupid. Like, we did like a walkthrough with Heath like 3 or 4 times. Every step was timed to the letter.
Especially when you've got one shot, right?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Like, we had one chance, because what this hospital, it was a real hospital, it was really exploding. If we fucked up the shot, we don't have the shot.
Yeah. And Christopher Nolan is seemingly meticulous about everything that he does.
Yes.
And there's moments where, yeah, the Michael Caine thing can happen and Heath Ledger can act on the fly, but it's definitely not like when you hear about certain other projects where just a lot of the times the script might just be, you know, Heath Ledger does something. It's not like that. These things are very, very finely detailed when it comes to how insane Christopher Nolan is as a filmmaker.
All the stunts, anything that was a stunt, was like exhaustively planned out in every detail. It's the character moments that were a lot of like, that was Heath's own interpretation. Like the licking the lips thing. That was Heath Ledger's like whole thing. Like basically every mannerism of the Joker is something that Heath himself came up with.
Yeah. And naturally that happens when you're like workshopping characters and figuring out how you're going to portray the role and make it your own, right?
Yes.
And you know, for Heath Ledger, it's like doing all the weird stuff where he's like, you know, constantly combing his hair and licking his lips and things like that. And then for other people like Alfred, it's just being like, oh, my cocaine.
Like, what's your favourite like Heath Ledger moment in that? I like the one where he spots Batman's girlfriend and he just goes, he slicks his hair back. He's such a cool. He's such a little moment, but it's so fun.
I mean,
he's having so much fun, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've like watched the movie. It's been a few years, so picking out a specific moment. But I love the fact that you know so much of it is planned out, but as you say, feels improvised. Like the bit with the pencil, where like obviously the stunt was planned, but the whole like reaction afterwards of like the ta-da and like kind of being so proud of himself, like,
and then just the fact that he immediately goes right to business.
Like, you know, just the whole mannerisms of like he's always got something going on. Like he's so like kind of, as you say, like it's meant to come across as like chaotic, right? Of like he's always moving his hands or fiddling with his hair or licking his lips, and like
he's got so much energy.
Compare that to somebody like a Harvey Dent or a Christian Bale, like a Bruce Wayne Batman, where they're very just stoic and well kept about themselves, whereas the Joker's just all over the place.
Can't forget as well my favourite Batman line, where like it's the Joker at the party, and he's like, "Oh, you got some fight in you," and then Batman goes, "It's the worst line reading. It's so bad. It's like, do you not want to get in to do another take of that?"
Yeah.
And I guess it's like Heath Ledger's performance, like we're not doing another take. His performance was so good, but just when he goes, "Did you gonna love me?" It's ADR it in. It's so bad.
That is the one thing that's so wild on the scale of like between the entire trilogy.
The Batman voice.
The Batman voice is sometimes really good and works very well. Other times it's where is she? Where is she? It's like there's a reason it became a meme, right?
It's like just like at the end where he's like he's talking to Gordon. He's like, "It has to be me. I will do it." It's Batman. Shut up. But I said, go back and watch that again. I recommend people go back and just watch that scene when Batman just comes in and is like, "Do you love me?" It's so bad. I was howling. I knew it was coming. I was like, and I remember it being bad. And then he did it. And I don't remember it being that bad.
And then you've got the sliding scale, because then you've got how weird and inconsistent Tom Hardy's voice of Bane is.
Oh yeah, because like they kept tweaking it in like production, right?
And then on top of that, you've got Natalia Al Ghul, Oscar-winning death right there.
Joe, apparently, this is like that was like the first take, and she thought they were going to do a new one, and they just left it in the film. It's literally again, you think you remember it being bad, and then you watch it, and it's just
it really is
so bad.
I remember not that long ago you referenced it and being really bad. I was like, I don't remember it being that bad. Like people have exaggerated over the years, and then it really is that bad.
It's like a little kid pretending to be like.
It's like, right, okay. That's the tape we're gonna go with.
Would you not feel embarrassed following Heath Ledger?
Mm-hmm. Tom Hardy's a good actor. And
it's the physicality of Tom Hardy that I prefer. Like,
yeah.
Because it must be really hard to act when you've got that shit on your face 90% of the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's more his physicality, right? Like Tom Hardy was fucking massive.
Yeah, and another film where I really enjoyed his performance, where he was massive, was I'm trying to remember the name of the criminal that he played.
Bronson,
that was it. I was about to say Branston. I was like, it's not Branston.
Branston Pickle, yeah.
The Branston Pickle himself.
It's very interesting. Do you know what? He's like, we talked about criminals. Like, he's a very interesting man. I've read his book. It's like his fitness book. It includes a chapter on how to strengthen your penis. So, thanks, Charles Bronson.
Right then.
Yeah. I can. Do you want to know how to strengthen your penis, Lucas?
Maybe that's a discussion to.
Do you know what?
Be had off stream.
We'll continue that conversation in the Discord.
Oh,
if anyone wants to know how do you strengthen your penis, according to Charles Bronson, because I remember reading it and I was howling. I was like, then you go,
It's just the thing is, for the past couple of months, we've been having problems with the podcast in terms of getting proper monetization on the ads and having restricted ads. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe they've made the right choice when Karl's like, do you want to know how to strengthen your penis?
Really? There's so much stuff about like Batman here, though, like the casting. So I guess let's talk about the casting of Heath Ledger. So, mentions here that Christopher was aware that Nicholson's popular portrayal of the Joker would invite comparisons to his version of the character. So he wanted an actor who could cope with the associated scrutiny of such a casting. Because I was thinking people like Heath Ledger is now the definitive Joker performance. Before him, it was Jack Nicholson. And Jack Nicholson, different take. I did like how theatrical his Joker was. It did suit that universe.
Yeah, it's super comical and over the top and stuff, right? But just remember the shit that Heath Ledger got being cast.
It mentions it here, yes.
Yeah.
This is it. Ledger's casting in August 2006 was criticised by some industry professionals. So even industry professionals criticised it, as well as many members of the public who considered him inappropriate for the role. And it reminds me of Pattinson, like Robert Pattinson when he got cast. And the criticism was, well, Heath Ledger is the gay cowboy. He's like, well, what on that movie is great. 2, if you think that's the only movie he's been in, watch better movies. Because I remember when it was like Robert Pattinson was cast as Batman. And everyone was like, well, the Twilight guy. And the director was asked, he went, well, have you only seen Twilight? Robert Pattinson's been in other movies. I've watched them. He's really good. Watch better movies then.
Yeah, he made money off Twilight and then just became this almost exclusively indie film actor, just being in like great little art house movies and stuff.
But what I found fascinating is like, the film understander guy who was like, oh, the Twilight guy. It's like, watch better movies.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a little bit of like the current conversation where people are like, I think I saw it the other day, I just rolled my eyes so hard into the back of my fucking head. Of like, do you know those YouTubers you see? It's like every day there's another YouTuber who has like 1 million subs who's like, why are movies bad now?
Mm-hmm.
And I just clicked on one out of the sheer curiosity, and it's like, man, there's been so many bad movies released in the last like 2 years. Does Hollywood make good movies anymore? And all they put on screen was Marvel movies. Like, watch different movies, you fucking idiot. That's not what. There are other movies. It's like, why don't they make good movies anymore? They do. You just don't watch them because all you watch is Marvel movies to bitch about them for the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many good movies. But that gets. It's like the Heath Ledger casting. Of like, oh, he's not good. It's like he's so good in every role he had. He was fantastic in.
Mm-hmm.
Never right?
Yeah. Good.
You're staring off into the middle distance.
Just doing some moderation.
Okay.
But we're all good.
Okay, so it mentions that, so executive producer Charles Roven said Ledger was the only person ever seriously considered for the role, and that Batman Begins' positive reception would help alleviate any concerns. You think, we made a good movie. People criticised Christian Bale, that Welsh guy playing Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, he did all right. Or, that Irish guy playing, like, Jonathan Crane. He did all right, right? Cillian Murphy did fine.
Yeah.
So maybe trust us that we're going to make a good movie. Christopher was confident in the casting because discussions between himself and Ledger had demonstrated that they shared similar ideas regarding the Joker's portrayal. Ledger said he had some trepidation succeeding Nicholson in the role, but that the challenge excited him. He also contacted Nicholson. Nicholson's like, I don't give a fuck. Because Jack Nicholson doesn't give a fuck.
And of all things, I don't think Jack Nicholson is that precious about his portrayal of the Joker that one time in the 90s. Or,
He's
no,
probably just
89 technically, right?
You're sort of like, hey guy, give it a go. He won't give a fuck, would he? I can't do American accent. That's why I'm not an actor. He described his interpretation of the Joker as a psychopathic, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy, and avoided humanizing him. Although he does a little bit because, again, there's those little moments, like I said, where you see the facade drop.
Hmm.
And just as well because he's just naturally very charismatic, because he's so himself. Like the bit where it's like, let her go. Very poor choice of words.
That's the thing, is it's just a charismatic performance, and there's a reason why so many people, myself included, around that time decided, like, well, what are you going to dress as Halloween?
The Joker.
Well, the Joker. Because it wasn't anything to do with the outfit, apart from maybe that you could potentially get it for quite cheap.
Yeah.
But it was the performance and how much he was just a very cool villain.
And everyone tried to do their own, like, Joker. I've been trying to do it throughout the video. It's like everyone's got their own, why so serious? And what I always liked about his lines are the little voice breaks that he does, which is so difficult to do. And to do consistently as he does, where he doesn't just say, why so serious? Like, he has the bit where he's like halfway through him saying it, you can tell that he just... You can feel that the person saying the line changes. And again, I watched the movie recently, so I can picture this in my head. But I would highly recommend just going back and watching his performance, like when he does like his laugh, like his laugh feels like a different person. And it's really funny because I also watched the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which is good. Like Joaquin Phoenix's performance is good, but it's so on the nose. And keeping in mind that like Heath Ledger's has a rocket launcher.
And that's the thing, right, is that Joaquin Phoenix is a brilliant actor, and I think he did an amazing job with what he had, but that was a movie being made by Todd fucking Phillips.
Oh man, I think, speaking of like the movie and Understander, I was like, I think I was grabbing a clip for something. And like, do you know the bit where he just shoots like Robert De Niro in the face? I thought like this was obvious, but like the amount of people in the comments for that clip who were talking about how maybe you didn't notice this, but when he says that he killed those like guys, he says that it's because they were awful. He then calls Robert De Niro awful. He was already hinting that he was going to kill him. It's like, yes, that's the line in the movie, but they're playing it off as if it's this like subtle thing no one picked up on. It's like he follows that by pulling out a gun and shooting him in the head. It's not that subtle.
No, and one thing I will mention, talking about, like, Todd Phillips' Joker, and I guess I just need to, like, try and find the quote, but he was talking about, like, the fact that it's not a musical. And it's like,
is it because they're scared of marketing as a musical?
They're scared of
too.
using the word musical in Hollywood.
Mean Girls 2 is a musical, and they refuse to advertise it as a musical, even though it being a musical is the most interesting thing about it.
So according to like DC Film News, taking a Variety article, the quote here from Todd Phillips, who doesn't want to label Joker 2 as a musical, the quote is
musicals don't sell.
Well, no, like that's the reasoning why he's saying that, but he says most of the music in the movie is really just dialogue. It's just Arthur not having the words to say what he wants to say, so he sings them instead.
That's a musical.
That's a fucking musical.
I don't get why like Hollywood is embarrassed or scared of making a musical.
I don't know. Historically, they make a decent amount of money.
Well, they don't make Joker money.
No.
Even though the most iconic part of that film is the musical montage section.
But I was just like... And again, even when it was back with fucking Todd Phillips' hot takes on Joker 1, where well, I had to make The Joker as a movie because, like, you can't joke about anything anymore and you'll get cancelled and all this bollocks. It's like, fuck off, Todd Phillips.
It's a really fun movie to watch as well, because it's basically just a guy who shits at everything and makes it everyone else's problem.
Sounds like Todd Phillips.
It's really hard to feel any empathy for that Joker. And again, you read the comments from like the movie understanders, like this is a movie a lot of people can resonate with because we've all felt forgotten at some point in our life.
Yeah.
And so, but we don't make it everyone else's problem.
And I
don't go out and shoot people because I'm upset. Also, that's like, again, messaging. That's kind of a bad message to put out, right?
And I've got mental health issues, so that's an excuse to go around like killing people for fun.
One of the funniest things about the movie is that scene before he shoots Robert De Niro in the face. Is that it shows that he actually could have been a pretty decent comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs to stop taking himself so fucking seriously. Like, Johnny walks out. He's in full Joker mode.
Well,
and he swans out.
Right, because he's like obviously not a trustworthy narrator, so you don't know whether that's...
You don't know how accurate that was, yes.
His way of like imagining what he's being like on stage, or whether it's that, no, that's just in his head. Like,
it's in his head and it actually went terribly. Maybe in the sequel we'll see that actually he walked out on stage and he just bombed again and then just shot Robert De Niro in the face because he didn't laugh.
Because he was taking the piss out of him. And yeah, like, because the whole reason that they have him on the show is in his head he's like, oh, they think I'm great, they think I'm fantastic, and then it's like, oh, you're that guy who was like, who's notable for being shit and bombing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just you don't really know whether any of that is actually true and happening,
which makes it interesting. But the problem is that it was made for an audience who interpret everything literally. So I'm forced to interpret it literally because I don't give the filmmaker credit to add any nuance to it. Unlike with the Joker's performance, or Heath Ledger's Joker performance, where there's so much nuance there, because it mentions here, Joker spent about a month secluding himself in a hotel room while reading relevant comic books about the Joker. He developed the character's voice by mixing high pitch and low pitch, which was inspired by ventriloquist performances. And I've seen like the interviews where he talks about this, and it's like, I want you to feel as if someone else was saying what the Joker is, because, you know, he's schizophrenic.
And again,
that's not how schizophrenia really works, but, you know, it's heightened reality of the movie.
Like, stuff like that is the kind of shit that people took and went like, oh, look, it drove him insane. It's like he was just doing research for a role.
Yeah. Ledger spent a further 4 months creating a Joker diary containing images and elements he believed would resonate with his character, such as finding the disease AIDS humorous, other things like, you know, babies dying and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, a nihilist like his version of the Joker would find those things funny. It's that thing, it's all part of the plan, right? Of someone dying of a horrible illness. It's funny because life's not fair.
And that's the thing, right, is I'm not sitting here going like, oh, it had zero effect on his mental state.
It can't have been the nicest thing to deal with.
No.
But everyone on set said he was like in good spirits the majority of filming. And he even says, Heath Ledger himself said, it's the most fun I've had with a character probably will ever have, which is kind of sad thinking about it. Mm-hmm. It was an exhausting process. And at the end of the day, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. I was absolutely wrecked. He got about 2 hours of sleep per night because he likes to immerse himself within the role. And he was just so excited to come up with new material. Like Christopher Nolan said, like, he'd call me at all hours in the morning with like ideas. Like, for example, one of like the hostage videos he sends in, Heath Ledger, just him and the actor went to his hotel room and just filmed that.
And you can just imagine though Christopher Nolan just like trying to get to sleep. Like, it's great. He's like, can we discuss this tomorrow on set? Like, please.
No.
Oh dear.
But I just thought that was like just really fun. And it's like, again, there's actors who talk about it. It's really frustrating that people try and paint this narrative of, like it killed him. It's like it didn't. Like he was a guy. He had a lot of problems. He probably should have talked about them. It's really sad that he died, but it's really offensive to his memory to frame it as like playing a comic book clown made him go insane. It diminishes the struggles that he was experiencing.
Exactly.
To a farcical degree.
It's one of those, I can see how the story got out of hand because he is playing this psychotic clown with mental health problems himself, but yeah, it is a bit offensive to just blame it all on that and discount the other problems that he was dealing with.
Yeah. And yeah, that's like mostly it's the Joker is the biggest part of that movie, so that's the only part we really need to talk about, right?
I mean, I imagine that's why I put the Joker in the thumbnail, is because
it's so
I
good.
imagined that ultimately that was going to be the discussion when we talked about something The Dark Knight related.
Like, why so serious? It's so good. Go watch it. Also, just the opening as well. I love the opening of just when you know which one's the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And which one's the Joker, and you can tell right away because he has like that weird like hunch stance because Heath Ledger was jacked for that film. You don't really see it much, but he was jacked. It's like Michael Jai White, who's in the movie, is like, yeah, I mean, Heath Ledger will work out. Guy was like in his element.
Mm-hmm. It's
not
like
supposed to, like,
Joaquin
physical
Phoenix,
threat.
Like he went the opposite route, and like when he like contorts his body and like breathes in and stuff, so you can just see like his rib cage, and he like hunches over and stuff. It's like, oh god.
Do you know what like my favorite part of that film? And this is like, again, I'm doing this for comedic effect. It's just like it's such a asshole like film guy thing of, do you know what makes the Joker really cool? Him smoking a cigarette. And all I think when I'm looking at the Joker is, I bet he fucking stinks.
And
like, he looks like he smells.
The thing that I just like, you know, other than like a lot of bigger problems with the movie of like portrayal of mental health and stuff like that, just the fact that they couldn't help themselves with the Bruce Wayne bit as well.
Yeah.
It's like you're meant to be like telling an origin story of this character and making it all about the Joker. It's like you just can't they can never help themselves. They can never have Batman media without both the Joker and the Batman.
Because they know Batman sells.
But that was just Bruce Wayne. It was the same with like Gotham, right?
Yeah.
Where it was meant to be focusing on little Bruce Wayne.
Little baby Bruce Wayne, like shiv people.
Couldn't help themselves of immediately putting every single villain and then Batman in it.
Yeah, and then the Joker. Or like the Robert Pattinson. That movie where they wisely cut out the Joker cameo. Because they realised, yeah, let's not put the Joker in the next one.
Is that a deleted scene? I
thought
thought it was just post-credits or something, but...
It's the deleted, but everyone saw it because, of course, they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Man.
That's how I immediately must have seen that deleted scene second one after watching that movie anyway, because
everyone did, right?
I just thought it was a post-credit scene.
It's like, you know, put another villain in. Like, put, like, Clock King in. Or something like that.
Calendar Man, fuck it.
I bet Calendar Man, they can make him interesting. Do you know why? Because I've never seen him in live action.
They made him interesting in the Arkham games.
Yeah. Like, again, always like his cool little bits of dialogue when you go to on different days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when they made the Riddler. It's like, what we're going to do, like, the Riddler's got such a good riddle. What is it? I'm just going to shoot people. Fuck, that's a good riddle. That was such a good riddle, right? And I love as well when people said Paul Dano when he got cast of like, that's perfect casting for the riddle. Look at his face. He's begging to ask me a riddle. Guy just can't wait to ask me a riddle.
Mostly just like, I set up a couple of little puzzles and stuff, but I mostly just walked around and shotgun people.
To be fair, that's a hard riddle to answer. Right? Riddle me this. Bang. Can't, can you?
It pissed me off. Like, that character didn't need to be the Riddler. Like, it could have just been like Goober McNumber 2.
This is more chill. I just like, again, I'm exaggerating for comedic effect, but the idea of like his riddle is just shooting people. Because I know like someone's like, that's not what he does. But like, when I think back to the movie, most of his riddles just involve blowing people up, which is a pretty good riddle.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to answer. And, it's like Saw. I know he's based on the Zodiac Killer.
Oh,
it's
yes.
like Paul Dano's face when he's doing that face of like, it's like he's begging, he's dying to ask me a riddle.
Is that the climax that they decided would be best for how are we going to deal with the Riddler was just, I don't know, how about we make him a right-wing nut that is just like some weird influencer that gets people to show up with shotguns.
Yeah, but I do, one thing I didn't realize was in the Dark Knight wiki we can end on is I mentioned earlier, Lucas, that movies have themes.
Mm-hmm.
And there is actually a section called themes and analysis. So should we just get, like, this has mostly been us reading the media.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the readings we've got are very surface level, but maybe it's, because I've got a background in like media analysis. But we can get some like directly from the horse's mouth. And like
So
we
what
can
you're
hear
saying
from.
is that the media is going to read us.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So, first one, terrorism and escalation. A central theme of Dark Knight is escalation, particularly in the rise of the Joker in response to Batman's vigilantism. Batman's vigilante operation arms him with high-tech military equipment against common criminals.
Yeah.
Lucas, Batman doesn't beat up poor people, though. A theme is he's got and that's the thing, it's like people hunting wolves with sniper rifles.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the common criminal has no fucking chance against Batman. It is such a wild overreaction to the problem. And it's, again, to me, it's so obviously a commentary on like American, like the militarization
and
of like, how do we solve this problem with a tank? Like, how does Batman solve the problem of crime? Running it over in a like literally military grade battle tank.
Yeah, because they did literally develop it for the military, but they said it was like too expensive, right?
It was too expensive for the military. Let's use it to shoot thugs and purse snatchers.
And it makes sense when Batman's got all this armor and gadgetry and stuff to take down gangs at a time, armed gangs. But when it is just, as you say, like a purse snatcher,
yeah,
just this is overkill. You know that, right, Batman? It doesn't matter.
Even when he's having like a fist fight with like just a goon, like he's like got 8 decades of like ninja training
Mm-hmm.
and like full grade military hardware. That's why it's really funny when he gets his ass kicked. Like the shit kicked out of him by Bane, and when he realizes, none of that stupid like ninja shit works on me. Fight me. Like the moment Batman has to fight someone like 1-to-1 in a fair fight, he loses.
I will
Which I just
say,
think is really funny.
I know that they wanted to recreate the Breaking Batman scene, but
it's so obvious he's getting lifted up by a wire, right?
Well, I was
It's
just going to
so
say,
obvious.
it's very stupid that Batman's got all this armor and tech and knows that Bane is just a bigger, better, faster, stronger like dude physically. And yet he throws like a smoke batarang or whatever at him one time, which doesn't work. And then he's immediately gone, well, that's my only option.
That fight is so disappointing because Batman should do. Do you know when he says you'll use the shadows as your weapon, but they will betray you. It's like you were merely born. It's like, no, you were merely adopted the shadow. I was born into it, molded by it. So he should have done that the entire fight. It should have been more of that.
And
then he just comes out and starts throwing like lazy ass haymakers.
Neither of them spend any time in the shadows in that entire movie.
It's
all too well lit.
He mentions here that. So critic Siddhant Adlakar, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, considers the Joker to be an analogue for countries such as Iraq, Somalia, and Lebanon, which are targeted by US military campaigns and responded with escalation using terrorism. Batman, during the film, also inspires copycat vigilantes, escalating lawlessness within Gotham. Film studies professor Todd McGowan said that Batman asserts authority over these copycats, telling them to stop because they do not have the same defensive equipment as himself, reaffirming his self-given authority to act as vigilante. The film has been analysed as an analogue for the War on Terror, the militaristic campaign the US launched following the September 11th attacks. The scene in which Batman stands in the ruins of a destroyed building, having failed to prevent the Joker's plot, is eerily reminiscent of the World Trade Center site after September 11th. According to historian Stephen Prince, The Dark Knight is about consequences of civil and government authorities abandoning rules in the fight against terrorism. And it's pretty obvious that those are themes that are being evoked because Batman builds the Patriot Act machine. Mm-hmm. And Lucius Fox says, you shouldn't have the rights to spy on people like this, that's what the Patriot Act was, of we're going to use the guise of it needs to be done to stop the bad people. We need to have access to your personal information. That's a very obvious parallel.
I don't know exactly what the Patriot Act had, but
it was the one where it's we get to check your search history and stuff.
Well, yeah,
Lucas, if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to fear.
basically everyone has the equivalent of, like, their phone tapped and shit like this
Yep.
at all times and stuff, right?
And that's what Batman's doing, right?
Yeah.
And he argues it's a necessary evil. I have to do it. But just this once, it's fine. I'm only going to do it just this once to stop this one guy. Because we all know that when stuff like that happens in the real world, they always stop at just one.
Yeah, they always do it once, get results, and then never do it again, right?
Yeah. It's like, that's why you can't empower the police to just shoot people that they don't like. Because as soon as they realize that they can solve a problem by just shooting the person, and they realize that's the easiest solution to the problem, that's the only solution they're going to use.
Mm-hmm. Path of least resistance.
Yeah. Several publications criticized The Dark Knight for a perceived endorsement of necessary evils, such as torture. Author Andrew Clavin said Batman is a stand-in for US President George W. Bush and justifying breaching of boundaries of civil rights to deal with an emergency, that Batman will re-establish those boundaries when the emergency is passed. Again, very similar to what the President did, the Patriot Act is a necessary evil to stop the bad people. But that's the thing of once you've established that you can do that, there's always going to be another bad person to stop.
And there's also a lot of, over history, there's a lot of extreme, measures being used, right? But there's, a lot of stories about, specifically, in Afghanistan, just, going completely overkill and using things like torture and stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned here. Yeah. Speaking of torture, Batman and Dent do resort to torture or enhanced interrogation, as it's called in the United States, and they don't want to call it torture. That's the word they invented as well. It's torture has such a negative connotation to it. It's it's torture.
Yeah, maybe it should.
To stop the Joker, but he remains immune to their efforts because there's a strong belief in his goals. When Dent ineffectually attempts to torture Joker's henchmen, Batman does not condemn the act, only being concerned about the public perception if people discover the truth. It's another fucked up thing of Batman doesn't criticize Harvey Dent for torturing people, only that he might get found out. What will people think if they find out you tortured people? Not criticizing the torture itself. It's it's okay that you're torturing the dude, but think about what happens if people know that you did it.
Think about the public perception of it.
Yeah. Which is, if you think about it again, that's a really fucked up thing to say. Right? That's super fucked up.
Yeah.
The Joker. This conveys the protagonist's gradual abandonment of their principles when faced with an extreme foe. The Joker meets Dent in a hospital to explain how expected atrocities, such as the deaths of soldiers and societal failings, are tolerated, but when norms are unexpectedly disrupted, people panic and descend into chaos. Although the Joker wears disguising makeup, he is not hiding behind a mask and is the same person with or without their makeup. He lacks any identity, any origin, representing the uncertainty, the unknowability, and fear of terrorism, although he does not follow any political ideology. Dent represents the fulfillment of American idealism, a noble person who can work within the confines of the law and allow Batman to retire, but the fear and chaos embodied by the Joker taints this idealism and corrupts Dent absolutely.
And
then finally, go on.
I was going to say, I like the idea of throwing in the line of well, he doesn't withhold any political position. It's being an anarchist is still a political stance.
Yeah.
It's he just, also as well, he doesn't necessarily fit within he doesn't fucking vote Republican or Democrat, but it's still anarchism and being an anarchist is still a political move and a political stance.
Yeah. In The Dark Knight's final act, Batman employs an invasive surveillance network by co-opting the phones of Gotham citizens to locate the Joker, violating their privacy. Adlarker describes this as an act of militaristic fantasy in which a significant violation of civil liberties is required through the means of advanced technology to capture a terrorist threat, reminiscent of, as mentioned, the 2001 Patriot Act. Lucius Fox threatens to stop helping Batman in response, believing he has crossed an ethical boundary, but still agrees to help Batman. Because that's the thing, he says it's wrong, but he still does it. And that's the thing, the film pays lip service to the fact it's wrong, but then still does it, and then it works.
Yeah.
And the fact that it works and then they destroy I'm not sure if it's not, maybe it wasn't the intended messaging here, but the messaging of, but it worked.
And maybe that could have been something that would have been more interesting for them to explore in The Dark Knight Rises. Maybe that could have been something that Bane was willing to bring up. But the fact that it just works, then they move on, and it's never brought up again. Batman doesn't mention that maybe he retired because couldn't put himself in a position where he needed to do something so evil again, even if he thought it was the right thing to do at the time or something. Just no. Move on.
Yep. And yeah, just as fact, well, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It works, and the film's messaging, however they intended it, is really difficult not to read as this was necessary because they say it's the only way we could have stopped the Joker. The only way to stop the Joker was by violating everyone in Gotham's rights. And that's a really, again, fucked up thing to put in a movie.
And again,
not have it questioned.
It, at very least, could have been questioned in the sequel, right? Of Bruce Wayne, upon reflection, thinks, talks maybe to somebody of just saying, talking to Alfred, maybe of, look, that pushed me past my limit. I regret doing it. On reflection, maybe like we could have found another way to do this and to take down the Joker. But
think about how fucked up Alfred is in that movie. We once encountered like a madman in a forest. Why'd you catch him? We burn the forest down.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real burn it all down to catch this one guy.
Yep.
There's a lot of messaging in this movie, and not all of it is great. And admittedly, a lot of it is overshadowed by the performances. But if you sit down and watch this movie and listen to what it's saying and what it's suggesting is the correct course of action,
I don't necessarily read
really uncomfortable.
Alfred saying that it was the correct choice when he explains the story, though.
It's more just he says, "How'd you catch him? We burnt the forest down."
Yeah, it's not really him saying you should go burn the forest down. It's him go, yeah, that was the only way we figured out how to do it.
Extreme problems require extreme solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But like just as well, he's basically justifying collateral damage there as well.
Yeah,
like I said, like with the spy thing of we need to do it, and then it's going to be one of those things of the moment that once you've let that genie out of the bottle, it's never going back in.
And it does because it's a Batman film.
It's a Batman. Batman's always right. That's the thing. Batman's always right, and Batman is completely incorruptible, even when he is, because he's corrupted multiple times in that movie. He tortures people. He abuses people's rights. He, he tells a lie to keep the Dent's identity, his crimes hidden. Which you can say, Batman's, and again, Batman's right. But now think if you're the family member, one of those people that Dent killed. That person never sees justice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a family that never gets to sleep at night because the killer of their loved one, even if that loved one was a criminal or a dirty cop, they never will find out what happened to their family member.
Instead,
the person who killed them will never see justice.
Instead, they're going to be told to live with the fact that Batman did it.
Yeah, and keep in mind as well, why did Batman become a Batman again? Because someone randomly killed his parents. And why did he become Batman? It's because the fact this random crime that he couldn't stop killed his family.
I mean, you could argue that in those movies, not really.
Not really.
It kind of is. It's a follow-on from that, right?
Again, but you never really stop to think about how fucked up it is that Batman basically robs a family of knowing how their loved one died. He robs them of the peace of mind that he insists that he always says everyone's entitled to justice. What about that family? About the family of all the people Dent killed, who will now, their killer will never see true justice. And in fact, they're remembered as a hero. They're going to be remembered as a hero forever because you chose to lie for them. That's fucked up, Batman.
Good, Karl.
The greater good. I wonder if that's ever been used to justify anything bad in the past. It's a good job movies don't have any reality or bearing on real life. But hey, that's the thing. That's why it's always good to go back and watch things. That's something I never clocked. When I rewatched it the other day, I went, hang on a second, yeah. I'd be so mad if I was that random goon's family. Because he's probably got a family. He's got a mum.
Mm.
Or a kid or a wife or a brother or something. They're probably not a criminal.
More than
Don't they deserve some justice to know what happened to their family member? It's oh no, your family, your brother was a criminal, so you don't get to know how he died. It's okay, yeah, he was a criminal. I still deserve to know he fucking died.
There's a very, very generous super chat over here, Karl.
Ooh, read it to me. I can't see the chat.
You can't see the chat. Well, it looks like it's $100 super chat.
Oh fuck yeah!
So thank you very much, Count Richmond. But they just say
wait, they're called Count Richmond.
Yeah.
If that's their real name, congrats on living up to your potential.
Live into the dream.
Live into your potential. Like someone called Smallwood. Don't say it.
Just drop in an apparent fact of, did you know if you took all the world's spiders and let them out in the Netherlands, they would consume the country's population in 3 days?
I can believe that.
All the world's spiders, I can see that, yeah.
That's a lot of spiders.
There's a lot of spiders.
There's a lot of spiders. There's probably a lot,
And-
one of the things that scares me is that I'm terrified of spiders. And there's a place in my house where I know there's a spider in there. And I'm not fucking going getting it. But it's but the longer I leave it, there might be more spiders.
It's okay though, Karl, because if you just tell me where it is, I'll just come down one night from your attic and I'll come and get them for you. I'll come out the walls to get the spiders in your walls.
Oh, man. Other day, I came in a little bit tipsy, and I turned my light on, and there was a spider on the fucking mirror. But because I was a little bit drunk, it was there, and for a second I thought it was on my chest, and I was like,
God. Well, at least it wasn't just on the mirror. But yeah, thank you, Karl.
That is very much appreciated. Thank you.
It really is, and I'm hoping that that's a true fact. A true.
I hope it's not.
I mean, we're not doing this as a point. We're not gathering the world's spiders.
Batman would. If you told Batman that it'd stop crime.
Like, if you told Batman that just invading Gotham with the world's spider population would solve the problem.
But Lucius Fox goes in and goes, Mr. Wayne, why have you got every spider in the world in a bag? And he's like, because it's the only way to stop the Joker.
It's in one big bag.
But isn't this going to cause problems for the people of Gotham? We have to do it. It's the only way to stop the Joker.
And Lucius Fox goes, okay, but this one time.
Yeah.
As he just opens up the bag of spiders.
That's always the problem. It's the fact that he says that you can do it one time. It's that you can't do that. Because Batman's whole thing is his whole attitude to killing is, you can never kill someone because the moment I cross that line, I know I won't stop.
But Karl,
but then in the movies,
he's not going to kill anyone. The spiders will. It's fine.
Yeah. Because that's his whole thing, right? He knows he's a psychopath, so he knows if he kills someone, he'll never be able to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But what's to stop him just violating people's rights again?
Yeah.
It's always it's fine. It's when it's your rights being violated.
It's fine because it's a comic book movie and Batman won't do it again, but yeah.
It's like when he's running over cars on the street, and it's well, yeah, it's good for the movie. It's but now imagine, again, put yourself in the perspective of Gotham resident 86. You come down in the morning and just the tumbler has just driven over your car.
And then the cops are like, well, we can't do much about him. He's a vigilante. Do you have vigilante insurance? You probably should get it because things are getting a bit wild.
I've got it with Wayne Enterprises.
That is a question, right? Maybe one for another day. Is just the implication of superhero insurance.
Yeah, it's damage control. They say in one Marvel comic, Iron Man funds damage control, which repairs collateral damage for free.
Yeah.
So it's this huge pool of money. It's if the Avengers destroy a downtown city block, damage control go in and fix it, and he pays for it. And if you same thing with Batman. I know someone's going to complain. Well, in the comics, Batman funds a bunch of social programs, but just Gotham's cursed. Because literally Gotham is cursed. It's built on an Indian burial ground, and they say it's cursed to always be covered in crime.
That's a fucking big burial ground. Jesus. Gotham's pretty sizey.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that Batman fans always love pointing out. Well, he does do that in the comics. It's but it's just very funny it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's almost like the messaging thereof, it doesn't work. So why does he bother doing it? That's an unintentionally really harrowing message.
Yeah.
To be putting out there that even a billionaire putting all of his resources to try and fix one city doesn't accomplish jack shit.
But it would if there weren't a curse on the city, Karl.
Yeah, that's what it's cursed.
That's just raw. It's why I just think get out of Gotham.
Why would anyone live there?
And I know the answer is most people can't afford to get out of Gotham, but still.
Wait, are you saying there's poor people in Gotham?
No, Batman solved everything, right?
That's the thing as well. It's no, there's no poor people in Gotham. It's why don't people leave? They've got no money. Batman doesn't beat up poor people or they're mentally ill. Well, see, then the Joker's saying, well, the Joker deserves it, so mentally ill people deserve to be beaten up then. Well, no, just the Joker. Okay, so.
Where'd you draw the line? Like, how insane do you have to be before you start?
And that's the problem
deserving it?
of, you don't want that line being drawn, because I don't trust anyone to draw that line.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the problem, right, when media says that not only should a line be drawn, but we should let an individual who's mentally unstable draw it.
Yeah.
Well, hey ho. God, I love Batman. That's the problem. I love Batman. I love Batman so much.
It's been a long one today because it's hard to stop Karl when he's on that Batman gravy train.
Yeah, I apologize.
It's all good. It's all good. It just means people get to enjoy some extra podcasting from us today.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you for just. I mean, we've got to thank chat for indulging us, right?
Yeah. We've got like nigh on 100 people watching consistently. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what to ask people to comment about in this one. Let us know your favourite Peter Molyneux lie.
Yeah, or if you want to answer my question, what character? Okay, I want someone to just like say a character from the Nolan trilogy. Describe the events of the movie from their perspective. And I want you to think about it. Think about what I do with Coleman Reese. If he just goes into work of like, I'm going to get a fucking payday today. And then he just finds out his CEO is stalking him and crashing Lamborghinis into him.
And remember as well, for anyone in chat or just like watching later on, you can join our Discord. I've just put a Discord invite link in the live chat as well, and just
hell goddamn yeah,
go to the I believe it's like question and answers tab, right?
Yeah.
Question answers, yeah. And drop us questions over the next couple of weeks for us to answer in episode 69 on an undisclosed date.
Nothing wrong with a bit of 69, mate.
Just in 3 weeks' time. We don't need
on
to
9/11.
mention when it is. We don't need to mention when it is.
It's on. The thing is, though, why would you not advertise it using 9/11?
No, I don't want to do that.
Like, you fool, Lucas.
So yeah,
why would you not do this?
We'll be cherry picking some questions from that are dropped over the next few weeks, and I'll be sure to remind people to keep them coming for when episode 69 does drop.
I'm excited for it. I want to know.
And thank you to the Pet of the Week, Broccoli, as well.
Yes. Oh man, I love that we've got this new gimmick of Pet of the Week, because hell yeah, Pet of the Week. Cheers, everybody.
You all.